What would happen if Naruto was trained and raised by Tsunade? And he became the greatest Sannin? Let's find out. But before we start, if you guys like my videos, please consider liking, sharing and subbing. This keeps me motivated. Let's start. First clause. Naruto dodged a boulder that only narrowly missed his shoulder. Backpedaling, he soon found his back pressed up against a tree. Another tree came flying at him at a speed that would have been unseen to the eyes of a civilian. He didn't bother channeling chakra into his fist as he punched the once living thing, splitting it in two before it could kill him. By Kami, his mother was insane. No medic nin shall ever stop treatment until the lives of their party members have come to an end. He recited, his face a stoic mask. A flash of black came to his right before something shiny glimmered in the sunlight. He turned just in time to see a woman with black hair and black eyes flash her arm from beneath long sleeves. The woman seemed to pull something, but the weird contraption on her forearm fired several poisonous enbin. By the gods above, his sister was insane as well. Naruto drew a kunai and deflected the senbon, only to find that the woman disappeared before he could retaliate. Damn it. Second clause. Looking up, he saw a flash of yellow and green flying towards him at an impossible speed. Her leg was raised well over her head, prepared to deliver a devastating axe kick. Naruto held both hands over his head, her slamming foot blocked by his forearms. He sank into the ground, a crater forming from the impact of the strike. Had he been anyone else, he would not have survived that attack. No medic ninja shall ever stand on the front lines. Already she blurred out of sight. The dark-haired woman was back, throwing a barrage of vicious punches and kicks. Naruto blocked each of the strikes, retaliating when he could. He managed to score a glancing blow to her shoulder, but he held back his monster strength. Despite the two women trying to actually brutalize him, he didn't want to harm either of them. Third clause. No medic ninja shall ever die until they are the last one of their platoons. He recited, dodging another tree. What is it with Akasama and those damn trees? Fourth clause. The flash of blonde and green was back and she threw a punch. Naruto leaned back, bending at an unnatural angle before spinning and delivering a sturdy kick. His attack was blocked and a hand wrapped around his ankle. Sooner than he was prepared for, he found himself flying through the air. Curling into a ball, he spun as he plummeted back to the ground. Visible blue chakra coated the blonde's fist as she sent a powerful punch upward. Before it could make contact, Naruto released himself from his compacted state and delivered the same shattering axe kick she'd done not even a few minutes prior. The resulting shockwave was deafening, the crater formed by the strikes colliding becoming far larger than any that the woman created on her own. Only those medic ninja that have mastered the strength of 100 seal and the ninja art of creation rebirth are allowed to disregard the aforementioned laws. Naruto said as he landed in front of the blonde woman, his thumb pointing to the purple diamond seal on his forehead. I'm so proud of you, Sachi. Tsunade smiled, hugging him closely. Now let's get back and pack up. We're going back to Konoha. Naruto scrunched his face up and made a sound of supreme disgust. Why, Kachan? Because it's getting around the time for the academy graduation and I want you to get into the ranks of the Konoha shinobi force. I know that you want to be a Sannin, Sachi, and you are a prodigy indeed. Tsunade kissed the seal on his forehead, placating his eye rolling. But even Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and myself started somewhere. Naruto sighed and nodded, walking back towards town with his mother and older sister. Shizune ruffled Naruto's hair playfully and turned to her master. Are you sure, Tsunade-sama? She asked as Taunton squealed excitedly as Naruto pet her gently. The elder blonde nodded, her thoughts returning to the promise she made to her sensei when she adopted Naruto all those years ago. Her precious Sachi. The trio came up to the massive gates of Konohagakure. Naruto's mood was continually darkening the closer they came. No sooner did they walk into the gates, did the two Chunin playing cards in front stand at attention, seemingly ready for anything, or at least that was the theory. But when they came face to face with two blondes with identical rhomboid markings. One with lovely eyes like melted chocolate, the other with whirlpools of deep azure. One with a green Heori with the kanji for gamble on the back, the other with a black Heori with the kanji for 5 on the back. One with impressively large breasts, the other with 3 whisker marks on either cheek. The other woman with the pair had dark hair and equally dark and still gorgeous eyes. In her arms was a small pig with its own Heori type of jacket with a pearl necklace. Tsunade-sama. The two men stuttered out. What are you doing back? Tsunade held Naruto close. My son is here to take the graduation exam. Is sensei busy? They nodded and Katetsu, a man with a cloth-like bandage wrapped around the bridge of his nose, escorted the group down the long street towards the Hokage's mansion. Naruto, who had been in the village with his mother and sister countless times, already knew where he was going. The kind old man was Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. He was an adoptive grandfather of sorts to the shorter blonde. the only part of the village that Naruto actually liked. The meeting with the Tsunade was short and ended with the old man giving Naruto a scroll and word of hurry. Naruto hurried along the streets, ignoring the bows and looks of genuine curiosity. Either way, the blonde Senju Heir was highly annoyed when he entered the academy. Various shouts asking who he was and why he was even in the academy when a Chunin named Iruka made himself known. Naruto gave him the scroll from the Tsunade and his eyes widened to near impossible levels. Your Tsunade saw his son. He managed to get out. The younger blonde nodded nonchalantly. It was ridiculous how often he dealt with this reaction, the stuttering, the bug eyes, the subsequent addressing going from just Naruto to Senju-sama. It got old when he was 5. Yes, he sighed, finally giving a verbal answer. Just Naruto is fine. Naruto proceeded to take his seat, completely bored with the fact that he had to do this. The things I do for love, he thought miserably. The test in and of itself was insulting, for lack of a better term. Naruto knew he wasn't being fair, not everyone was the son of a Sannin, least of all the best medic nin in the world. Being trained extensively by his Sannin mother and Jonin-level sister, while troublesome at times, had its merits. The written test, which dealt in theory, was a breeze. The Shuriken Jutsu test was easy, though again, he and his sister preferred poisonous Enban to actual kunai and shuriken. That alone required more concentration and dexterity. The taijutsu portion was fun, at the very least. He was paired with the assistant teacher, a man named Mizuki, that was continually glaring at him. Needless to say, the man was put in his place. Finally, they made it to the last portion of the test, which focused on ninjutsu. The students were required to perform the substitution, transformation, and clone technique. Naruto substituted Iruka, then transformed into a perfect copy of Orochimaru. By the look on the Chunin's face, Naruto would swear that the man was going to have a heart attack. After he returned to his original visage, he conjured 5 shadow clones. Iruka was truly impressed. The blonde was a prodigy in the making. He was given a forehead protector. He decided to give it to his mother, he had no intention of wearing it. Oddly enough, he felt 3 sets of eyes on him throughout the entirety of the graduation exam. When he looked, he noticed a girl with pink hair and dazzling green eyes, a girl with pale blonde hair, and boy with the Uchiha crest on the back of his shirt. Ino Yamanaka, heiress to the Yamanaka clan, was a connoisseur of the beautiful. As an aspiring botanist and self-proclaimed most beautiful kunoichi in her generation, it was a given that Ino would be attracted to the visible beauty in all things. In fact, her former best friend, Sakura Haruno, had odd pink hair and dazzling emerald eyes that initially drew the blonde to protect her when other bullied her for the size of her forehead. It was only afterwards that Ino found her beautiful on the inside. It was this draw to the beautiful that led her to the last of the Uchiha, a brooding boy in their year. His cold nature and strong, silent personality were utterly sexy in the eyes of the young Yamanaka. Add his looks and the fact that he was the best rookie from their year. So when the door to the classroom opened on examination day to admit a boy with the blondest hair Ino had ever seen and eyes bluer than any sapphire, she initially thought her heart was going to stop. He was slightly taller than Sasuke, and from the mesh shirt he wore, they could all tell that he was well muscled, though not overly so. Each cheek held 3 markings that looked oddly like whiskers. Like his pants, the haori he wore was a deep black with the kanji for 5 on the back in crimson. On his forehead was a strange purple diamond-like marking. Was his clan crest? All clans had their crest emblazoned on their clothing, like the Nara and the Uchiha. Some clans, however, had physical markings as their crests, such as the red fangs on the cheeks of the Inuzuka or the spirals on the cheeks of the Akimichi. What clan did he come from? It was at that moment that Ino decided that Sakura could have the Uchiha, for she had her eyes set on something much greater. Your Tsunade Sama's son. Iruka stuttered. The boy looked as though he were bored and ready to do something else. Just Naruto is fine. Ino couldn't stop staring. Even as he took his seat behind Kiba, even as she was taking her test. The boy, Naruto sneered at the sheet of paper as he filled it out, and in minutes, he finished. He walked up to the front at the same time as Shikamaru, and they handed in their test papers. When Naruto settled back into his seat, he pulled out a reference book on human anatomy and began reading. During the Shuriken Jutsu portion of the test, he broke his kunai and split his shuriken as they landed one on top of the other. It was impressive, to say the least. Like Sasuke, he got a perfect score. The taijutsu portion was rather interesting. Naruto was put up against Mizuki-sensei, and she knew that this would be a one-sided fight. Much to the surprise of everyone, it was, though not in Mizuki-sensei's favor. Naruto made the Chunin look like a fool before delivering a vicious kick to the man's leg. He knelt before Naruto as the blonde held his hand up. What shocked Ino and quite frankly had everyone else shocked was what came next. Naruto flicked Mizuki-sensei's forehead. The white-haired man was set crashing through several trees before heavily splintering another and slumping against the trunk. All jaws were dropped. The ninjutsu portion was in motion, and Ino found herself anxious to find the blonde and introduce herself. Naruto was sitting at the desk he claimed with papers strewn over the top. He was going over something and that held Ino's curiosity. Bracing herself, she walked over. "Hi," she smiled. "I'm Ino." Naruto looked up and gave a warm smile. "Nice to meet you, Ino-san." "Just Ino is fine." She sat beside him. "What are you reading?" "Notes I've taken on various poisons. Some I've created, some I made an antidote for, and some that I just find interesting." "You deal with poisons." Her parents owned Yamanaka's flowers, and while it was a flower shop, Shinobi also came in to get various poisons. Perhaps Ino should ask her mother about it when she went later. He nodded. "Yeah, Koch-an says I have a gift when it comes to poison. I wouldn't go that far. It just interests me. A lot." "Senju, Naruto," Haruka called. In a small plume of white smoke, the papers were gone. Without another word, Naruto rose and followed Haruka to different classroom. Ino's mind was reeling. He had a lot of papers, all with some kind of diagram or other drawing. He writes a lot. "Careful, Ino pig," came the warning voice of Sakura. "Get too friendly with the new kid and I'll steal Sasuke-kun from under your nose." Ino merely shrugged. "Hey, if I can get close to him, maybe he'll teach me some cool jutsu or how to heal." The pincat scoffed. "He's not as cool as Sasuke-kun." "Somehow I doubt that," Ino thought, then said with a shrug. "Well, has Sasuke actually ever spoken to you?" "No," Sakura's shoulders slumped, but she stood up straight with her eyes blazing with determination. "But that won't stop me. One of these days, Sasuke-kun will acknowledge me." Ino's sweat dropped. "Again, I seriously doubt it." Naruto returned after a little bit with his forehead protector in his hand. Reclaiming his original seat to the right of Ino, before he unsealed his notes once more and began poring over an incomplete neurotoxin recipe. Haruka returned after a few more moments and congratulated the students who passed, telling them to return tomorrow for team placement. Naruto packed up, sealing his notes once again before leaving the school. With a yawn, he made his way through the streets of Konoha before he felt a hand on his shoulder. Had he not been in the village, he might have seriously injured whoever did it. When he turned, he was face to face with Ino. Her pale blue eyes were attractive. Unfortunately for her, Naruto didn't really have a thing for blondes. He wouldn't mind dating one, it just wasn't his particular go-to. "I'm blonde enough for 3 people," he remembered telling his sister before the decision to return permanently to Konohagakure was made. "Hey Ino. What's up?" he asked, still walking. She easily fell into stride beside him. "Not much, really. I was going to go to my parents' flower shop. Do you want to come? We have poisons." Naruto's ears perked up at that magical phrase. There were few ways to get the son of Tsunade of the Sannin to do something, especially since he inherited his mother's legendary stubbornness. One was the promise of reference materials. Another was something dealing with poisons. Another was the odd mixture of ramen and dango, with a side of sake that he could give to his mother. "You know poisons too?" he asked excitedly, his eyes dancing. Ino giggled, but shook her head. "No. I was actually hoping you could teach me." Naruto's smile faltered ever so slightly, but it got brighter at the prospect of teaching someone the beauty of poison. He was a strange one, the Senju heir. "I was actually going to the hospital." Naruto turned his gaze forward. "Knowing my mom the way that I do, she's most likely already set up her office. I'm pretty sure Jiji made her the head of the hospital." "Can I meet your mom?" Naruto looked at the girl weirdly. Didn't she just say that she was going to go to her parents' store? He shrugged, his mother was a big deal after all. Ino suddenly felt uncomfortably warm. Before she knew what was happening, she was scooped up by Naruto and the two took to the rooftops of Konoha. Steam was literally rising thickly off of Naruto's skin, he was so hot. Ino never felt the shock of a step being taken. Were his feet even touching the rooftops? In a matter of minutes, the duo landed in front of the hospital, startling a few citizens as they walked past the steaming boy and wind-strewn girl. Ino took a moment to fix her hair and make sure that she was presentable. "Is it true?" a voice called from behind him. Naruto turned around as the stream became lighter and lighter. A girl with her hair done in 2 buns with rather lovely brown eyes was ogling him. Naruto was suddenly uncomfortable. Why was this girl violating him with her eyes? "Are you Tsunade-sama's son?" she asked. "How'd you figure that out?" he asked tiredly. "Well, the greatest medic nin would most likely be found in a hospital, right?" the girl asked, and much to Ino's irritation, Naruto chuckled. "So then her child would only naturally be drawn to hospitals too, right? It would only make sense." Naruto sighed after he finished chuckling. Far too much was happening, far too fast for his liking. He nodded at the weird girl's infallible logic. He was often drawn to hospitals wherever they went. He took pride in his ability to heal and loved to do so. He felt even closer to his mother and sister every time he healed someone or performed a surgery. "Do you think I can meet her?" she asked. "She's my hero." "Mine too," Naruto thought as he resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Is this the damn village hidden in the fangirls or the leaves? I can't tell. To be fair to the odd brown-eyed girl, she held the air of a serious kunoichi. It was different than the blonde girl or the pink-haired girl from the academy, but still familiar because of his family. Something hit Naruto. She never answered how in the hell she knew who he was. Whatever. Sure, I guess. Tsunade was worried. Not that she felt like anything bad was going to happen, but instead her mind stayed with her Naru-chan. He held a deep-seated resentment for their home village, and it wasn't a secret why. This was the village that sent her lover and little brother to their deaths. This village was the reason she developed hemophobia, a fear that had become so extreme and crippling to the world-class medic that Tsunade was forced to heal the more bloody wounds that Naruto received from training. The reason she became a wanderer. So it wasn't any kind of surprise that he held a resentment towards their home village. His dream was to become a Sannin. To become a world-class medic just like her, but she had her start here. Her home. His home. Tsunade sighed as she contemplated the safe in her bottom right desk drawer. She'd sent Shizune out to get some documents from the head nurse, but her mind wandered even still. A knock sounded on her door. "Come in." "Akasama," came the voice she loved the most. "I'm back." She stood and grabbed the boy in her arms, smothering him in her bust. "How did it go, Sachi?" When she finally released him and he drank in sweet oxygen, he smiled and handed her his leaf headband. "I passed. It was too easy. Here, you can keep this. I'm not wearing it." She gave him a chiding stare and took the forehead protector before she turned her gaze to the two girls staring at her as though she were some mythical hero. The blonde of the two eyed her strength of 100 seal, then eyed Naruto's. Her eyes kept moving back and forth between the two seals. Tsunade was quickly becoming irritated. "Sachi, who are they?" Naruto held his hand towards Ino and Tenten in turn. "This is Ino and I met her at the academy. This is, Panda-chan and I met her while I was trying to come in and find you." The girl he so affectionately referred to as Panda-chan leveled a ball-shriveling glare at Naruto. He, having dealt with Tsunade herself, was unfazed and looked to her as though she were missing a few screws. "My name is not Panda-chan." "Well, before you started babbling about meeting my Ka-chan, you never gave your name." He deadpanned. Her glare weakened as a blush of embarrassment colored her cheeks. "Oh, sorry. My name is Tenten." Naruto stopped listening and looked around his mother's new office. Soon he sat on the floor and unsealed his notes again and took up a pen with a contemplative look while the three kunoichi spoke. He briefly wondered who was going to be on his team. The one named Shino looked cool and intelligent. The girl named Hinata, who kept eyeing him with faint blush, would also be an ideal teammate, he supposed. Naruto sat on a wooden post found on his team's training ground. Originally, he was reading his copy of Advanced Book of Poisons, Volume 2, but memories of the day prior was currently interrupting his focus. Having been placed under a jonin named Kakashi Hatake with Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno as his teammates, he didn't know what to expect at first. For starters, his sensei was 2.5 hours late. The Senju heir didn't care, it was more time to work on his poisons. Giving his incomplete neurotoxin formula a break, he opted for revising a powdered formula designed to inflict temporary blindness. Hobby aside, he found that his teammates were rather lackluster. Having traveled a great distance in his young life and performed in a multitude of hospitals and clinics, he came across hundreds of thousands of different personalities. From cold and aloof to energetic and passionate. From tsundere to kuadere and even the occasional yandere. Thankfully, he escaped from the few that he met. So for him to have teammates with such interesting personalities was kind of dull. Sasuke Uchiha was a brooding boy, most likely due to some kind of mental trauma in his early years, if Naruto had to hazard a guess. He was cold and excelled at nearly anything he decided to put his time and effort into. It was his arrogance, however, that prevented him from truly shining. Whether due to him being the last of such a prestigious clan or due to the fact that he had such a legendary Kekkei Genkai, Naruto didn't know. From what he'd read, the Uchiha were a proud clan with an extremely powerful Kekkei Genkai in the form of a doujutsu. It was due to that little fact that Naruto started a little side project. Either way, the boy looked down his peers believing himself peerless in all things. Sakura Haruno was the complete opposite in a multitude of regards. Rather than having a superiority complex, she had a powerful inferiority complex. It had come, he learned, from the fact that she was insecure about her forehead as well as the fact that she came from a civilian family. Though oddly enough, Mibukki Haruno was a kunoichi at one point in time before settling down with Sakura's father. Regardless, the girl was best friends with Ino according to the other blonde, and they had a falling out over Sasuke. The pincat hung on the Uchiha's every word. It was like watching a devout follower listening to their living god. At times it was interesting. At times, he really wanted to render her unconscious. Sakura had also taken to insulting Naruto at every convenience, claiming that he'll never be as whatever as Sasuke. The aforementioned Uchiha would merely scoff at every form of stimuli the girl would give him. It was obvious her obsessive devotion was going to lead her to a lot of heartbreak and self-destruction. In reality, Ino was the same way. During the few conversations he had with the Yamanaka heiress, she would often muse aloud about how much Naruto reminded her of a much nicer Sasuke. That, in and of itself, was an insult. As such, Naruto distanced himself from the blonde and pink-head every chance he got. It was going to get far more difficult from here, as he was the Haruno's teammate, and Ino seemed to always be waiting for him in different locations around the village. Naruto swore that if he heard anything else with Sasuke's name in it, where the arrogant prick wasn't directly involved, he was going to lose it. During his revisions to his powered toxin, Sasuke stared out of the window, seemingly deep in thought about whatever it was he thought about. Sakura was in between violating Sasuke with her eyes, giving Naruto odd looks, and complaining about the tardiness of their jonin. It was obvious that the weight was wearing on Sasuke's patience as well. Soon his attention turned to Naruto, who was flipping through the pages of his purple book while scribbling notes on a blank scroll. Something about the blonde irritated him, but he didn't know what. Was it the way he blatantly ignored the two of them? Was it the way that he didn't bother making conversation, not that Sasuke would give an answer anyway? Or was it the fact that he had absolutely no issue staying in the damned classroom, doing whatever the hell he was doing, while he and Sakura were squirming in their seats with impatience? Sasuke sighed, venting his irritation. Sakura was pacing in an effort to alleviate the building energy that she felt. Naruto, of course, didn't notice. When the Jonin finally showed up, he said what was essentially "I hate you, come to the roof." The Senju, Uchiha, and Haruno made their way to the roof and sat in front of their instructor. They were going to introduce themselves, Kakashi announced, by sharing details about themselves. Their name, likes, dislikes and dreams. At the behest of Sakura, Kakashi went first. At the end of it, they knew precious little about their sensei except his name, something they already knew thanks to Iruka's team placement, which took place a full 3 hours earlier at that point. The three genin sweat dropped before it was Sakura's turn. Just like their sensei, all that was known about the Pinkette was her name. Throughout the whole of introduction, particularly the bits about her likes and dreams, she continually looked at Sasuke as she hugged herself, squirmed and giggled. It was quite obvious what she liked and what her dream was. Naruto rolled his eyes and looked to the clouds. Sasuke was next, and his held the most merit as one that Naruto could actually get behind. At least, for his dream. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I have very little things that I like, while my dislikes are many. I do not have a dream, no, for I shall turn it into a reality. My ambition is to kill a certain man and restore the honor of my clan. Naruto figured that if he and the Ravenet bastard ever became friends, he wouldn't mind helping out. Of course, the lad would have to go through some major breakthroughs in terms of personality. As it currently stood, Naruto couldn't really stand being anywhere near his teammates. How about you, Blondie? My name is Naruto Senju. I like poisons, venoms, and toxins. I also like to discreetly poison people that call me Blondie. I dislike people who think they're Kami's gift to the world and not being able to heal the wounded. My dream is to become the next Sannin. Sasuke snorted. You do know that the term Sannin means 3 ninja, right idiot? And since there's already Sannin in the world, you can't be one. Besides, if there were a way to become Sannin, Sasuke-kun would probably become one quicker than you. Sakura sneered condescendingly. Now. Kakashi chided, Naruto, are you aware that the term Sannin is merely a title? An honorific, if you will. Are you sure you don't mean Sannin? It was at that moment that Naruto decided to definitively poison all 3 of them. Yes, I am well aware of the fact that it is merely a title, an honorific. Yes, I will become a sage on my journey to become a Sannin. No, I am not confused. Hanzo the salamander named my mother and her teammates the Sannin, 3 legendary ninja, each master in their own given fields. Jiraiya in Fuinjutsu. Orochimaru ninjutsu. My Kachan in medical ninjutsu. As much as it pains me, Kachan is not immortal. Neither is Jiraiya or Orochimaru. When they finally depart from this world, I wish to be the one to keep the title alive. I will be the next Sannin, as in the next generation Sannin. Kakashi's visible eye widened before he nodded sagely. He understood what the boy meant completely. It was an odd dream, though it couldn't possibly be any weirder than dreaming about becoming a Hokage. They were shinobi, their entire world was weird, in a manner of speaking. Kakashi also made a note to not call Naruto Blondie in the near to distant future. After telling them to meet him on Training Ground 7 for a test, which Sakura emphatically reminded him that they were already tested, he explained that the test was to make sure they were truly worthy of being genin and left. Naruto sighed. He loathed when people told him that his dream didn't make any sense, that it wasn't attainable due to the term Sannin meaning 3 ninja. Naruto was not an idiot. He could be a bit of an airhead at times, but never an idiot. Of course, he didn't care what others thought of his dream, as many seemed to forget that the Sannin are regarded as legends, therefore making it a goal-worthy title. He heaved another sigh when he felt 2 chakra signatures moving towards him. Taking a stick of dango out of the container he brought from him, he began to munch on the snack as he returned his attention to his book. Kakashi-sensei instructed us not to eat breakfast, Naruto. Sakura scolded once she was close enough to the blonde. Naruto looked into the depths of her eyes only to look back at his book. The sound of rumbling stomachs blocked out the sound of his page turning. The agitation in the air was palpable, though none of it was aimed at him directly. There was a poof, and when Pinkat and Uchiha turned, they had to react quickly to catch neatly wrapped sandwiches. Naruto closed his book as he finished his dango and put it away, deciding that it would be a lost cause to continue reading. "Eat," he commanded gently. "You will need your strength for whatever it is we're about to do." Sasuke sneered. "Don't think that you can tell me what to do, loser." Naruto made a half-ram seal, and the sandwich in the other boy's hand vanished. "Suit yourself then." Sakura was conflicted, though only partially. Sasuke's food was rather hastily taken away from him for his comment, leaving him to glare at the uncaring blonde. She was hungry, and while she wanted to follow in Sasuke's every footstep, she knew the blonde had a point. Walking up to her crush, she gifted him with half of her sandwich. He looked at her and after making a sound of irritation, he mumbled his thanks as he accepted her gift. A little bit of something was better than none. Contrary to popular belief, Kakashi Hatake was never late. Having been an Anbu for as long as he could remember, the white-haired man often arrived early to wherever he needed to be. The key term being needed. According to the Sandaime, he needed to mold and instruct his Genin squad, and as such, he would never be late when it came to the 3 kids. Kakashi watched them rather intently, taking note of their interactions with each other. The son of the Senju acted with an indifference that the Jonin found familiar. He acted the same way when he was part of his own Genin squad under the Yondaime before his time as the Hokage. The last of the Uchiha, at least of those still loyal to Konoha, had a certain air about him, one that screamed that he was better than those he was surrounded by. It didn't help that those surrounding him were usually the biggest ass-kissers that Kakashi had ever seen in his years. Sakura only cared about what Sasuke did and thought, and as such her devout obsession with the boy would undoubtedly drive a wedge between the teammates. Funnily enough, Kakashi saw Naruto interact with people in Konoha Hospital, along with Tenten and Ino. He had a kindness that was undeniable, coupled with a personality that was capable of being the glue to hold together any sort of straining relationship. So why did he act too uncaring towards the 2 people that he would be teammates with until one or all of them die? It was common knowledge that once a Genin was assigned to a team, that team was permanent. That wasn't to say that one member couldn't take a mission with another team altogether, because that was rather common, but Team 7 would forever be Team 7. Deciding to observe his charges for another 2 hours, he sighed and decided to get this shit show in waiting rolling. From his continued observations, it seemed like a 2 against 1, so it was at that moment that Kakashi decided to drill teamwork into them. And he had just the thing for that. "You're late." Sakura jabbed a finger in her sensei's direction, clearly irritated. Kakashi offered an eye smile. "Sorry about that. You see, I ran into a black cat, so in order to avoid any bad luck, I had to take the long way." Of course that was complete and utter bullshit, and his Genin knew that. Only Naruto entertained his shenanigans with an understanding nod, though his eyes were calling his bluff. He chuckled. "Well, it's time to start your test." The Jonin brought out 2 small bells. "You have until noon to retrieve these bells for me using any means necessary." "But sensei, there are only 2 bells." Sakura noted. He nodded. "That's because only 2 of you shall pass. The one that fails will be sent back to the academy." As he said that, 2 pairs of eyes shifted to Naruto. Kakashi sweat dropped, they were already singling him out as the one who was going to fail. Oh yeah, he most certainly needed to beat teamwork into them. "Now come at me with the intent to kill, or you will fail," said Kakashi in a grim tone. "Begin." The 3 Genin vanished. Sakura decided to make a couple of booby traps. Snickering to herself, she set about her foolproof plan with wire strings, kunai, 3 shuriken, and 4 explosive tags. All she needed was someone to lead Kakashi into her trap, and those bells would be as good as hers. Of course, she'd gift the other one to Sasuke. He deserved it, after all. Sasuke was hidden amongst the trees armed with a kunai in either hand, held in a reverse grip. He watched a seemingly unaware Kakashi meander into the forest in which the 3 of them were hidden. When the time was right, he would spring his trap and claim those bells for himself. Naruto rose from his hiding spot in the foliage that littered the ground. His stealth was nearly unrivaled, but there was no point in needlessly flaunting. It was obvious that Kakashi wasn't a pushover. He watched Sakura set up her traps in order to kite and finally bind their sensei, while Sasuke was rather well hidden, ready to attack the Jonin solo. Brave, but foolish. Well, it wasn't like he had anything better to do. Might as well play the fool. The charging Senju Heir eyed his teammates and grinned at their faces, one incredulous, one expecting. Kakashi reached into his pouch and retrieved a book. "Time for your first lesson," he said. "Taijutsu." He threw a vicious kick at the boy, only for him to explode into white smoke. 4 more copies of the blonde erupted from the surrounding foliage, each rushing him with a different taijutsu form than the others. It didn't matter. Kakashi dispatched them all with one well-placed shot, but the numbers were getting ridiculous. From 1 to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 20, then back to 1. His pattern held no consistency, as even the numbers of the clones changed. From 1 to 20, from 20 to 8, from 8 to 10. It made no sense. Still, it wasn't like they were posing much of a challenge. Heavenly kick of pain. There was a tingle of warning on the back of Kakashi's neck. He looked up and made a wild dive to the left as the original Naruto loosed a wicked axe kick where his sensei once stood. The ground immediately cratered, shards of earth rising and altering the terrain. Kakashi's eye widened, though he really shouldn't be surprised. He heard about how he beat Mizuki with 2 moves. He'd even heard stories about Tsunade's monster strength. That didn't mean he was expecting it, however. Naruto instantly won the attack, attacking in a vicious yet deliberate manner. Kakashi dodged each attack easily and managed to retaliate at seemingly perfect moments. Once again, he was surprised to see Naruto blocking his attacks when they were so close to striking him. The fight pushed Kakashi back against a tree. Shanro. There were several explosions that Kakashi dodged just in time, only to see kunai and shuriken fly at him. He ducked and the weapons embedded themselves in the tree he stood in front of. Naruto appeared in front of him again, but there was a glint of light. Kakashi substituted with one of the rocks that Naruto created from his attack. The aforementioned blonde was suddenly trapped, tied up to the rock by wire strings. Sakura came from the tree she was hiding in to examine her handiwork. Her jaw fell open when she noticed it was Naruto that was snared instead of Kakashi. "Damn it, Naruto." The boy glared at her before vanishing in smoke. A sudden shadow overtook Sakura as she turned to find her sensei staring into the depths of her eyes. Second lesson. Genjutsu. Suddenly, everyone was gone. She was afraid, watching carefully as leaves spiraled around her. Before she knew what was going on, she heard a weak, raspy voice. It was familiar as it called out to her. As Sakura, she turned to find Sasuke, crawling towards her. He was bloody, beaten, and had dozens of senbon embedded within his body. She screamed, unable to comprehend what her brain was showing her, before she succumbed to the cold grasp of unconsciousness. Kakashi watched his female student dropped. He was only to sigh as a blur of blue flew at him. Sasuke was attacking with a ferocity that was associated with the Inuzuka clan. Still, using his clan taijutsu, he was able to get Kakashi to move the way he wanted, resulting in a clean kick sent the man back by a few feet. Sasuke glared at him, pissed that the Jonin was still on his feet. Lesson 3. Ninjutsu. He flew through hand seals before he held his hand up in front of his mouth. Fire release. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke flew through his own hand seals. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu. The flames clashed and pushed against each other for dominance. No one noticed Naruto claim Sakura and set her away from the colliding fire techniques. No one else noticed when Kakashi went underground via his earth release. Hiding like a mole technique. The flames died down with Sasuke's being the victor. Most of the surrounding greenery was set ablaze, and Sasuke was left panting in his spot. He gave a grin before he felt something grab him by the ankles. What the hell? He looked down to see 2 gloved hands. Earth release. Double suicide decapitation technique. The next movements were a blur to the Uchiha Heir as he suddenly found himself buried to the neck in the ground while Kakashi stood over him with a kind eye smile. There was a flash of yellow and white behind their sensei, but nothing came from it. Sasuke wondered if he was hallucinating, but focused his energy on getting out of his current predicament. Kakashi looked at his handiwork, a bound blonde, a trapped brunette, and a stirring pinkette. Boil release. Unrivaled strength. The punch that appeared seemingly out of thin air lodged itself in Kakashi's midsection and sent him flying. Sasuke looked up, suddenly uncomfortably hot. Naruto looked down at him, his skin steaming as he punched the ground. His unnatural strength coupled with a delicately controlled burst of chakra loosened the ground enough for Sasuke to escape. How the hell did you do that? Naruto looked to him and looked back at his coughing sensei. Don't worry about that. Get Sakura. Having said his piece, he rushed off towards Kakashi as the man stood and delivered an elegant spin kick. Naruto decided to take a dive, allowing the kick to send him flying. His objective was complete. The timer Kakashi set rang angrily as all movement came to a stop. Sakura and Sasuke were standing next to a downed Naruto. "Time's up," Kakashi said, but before he could continue, Naruto held up two small bells as he stood. The other two genin gaped, while the jonin eyed the boy curiously. How did he manage to do that? Good job, Naruto. Now, who gets the bells? Naruto looked to his two teammates. Both looked relatively worried. Should he decide to be selfish, either one could and would be sent back to the academy. Surprise slapped them both as they each received a bell, leaving Naruto with none. They stared at him, wondering why he would do such a thing. "I honestly don't care about being sent back," Naruto said. "The dreams they have require them to be here, kind of. I was only doing this to make my mom happy." Kakashi looked at the boy as he turned and started to walk away, but the white-haired jonin held him fast by the shoulder. "Congratulations. You all pass." Three confused genin waited on him to elaborate, as none could seem to form a coherent question. "In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum," Kakashi explained sagely. "But those that abandon their comrades are worse than scum. Now, meet back here tomorrow morning at 9 for our first mission." "Sachi-kun, what are you doing?" Tsunade asked as she looked down at her small blonde. Naruto carefully observed the tiny Kitsuyu that he'd managed to summon. At roughly 7 years old, he may have been the youngest person since the Warring States period to actually succeed in performing the ninja art summoning technique. Of course, since he wanted to emulate his mother in all things, he refused the toad summoning contract from Uncle Jiraiya whenever the old pervert came around. He'd even refused the snake summoning contract from Uncle Orochimaru, the last thing he'd ever offered the boy before he officially went rogue. No. Naruto Senju would wait patiently for his beloved mother to offer him her own summoning contract. By that point, he'd already met Kitsuyu many times and he liked her. She was cute for a slug and damn adorable when she was in her minuscule state. When he turned 7, his patience was well rewarded as he was finally gifted with the slug summoning contract and the required hand seals to utilize the technique. Asking Kitsuyu-chan questions. He answered, smiling at her. Tsunade raised an amused brow at the rather affectionate honorific he gave to the great slug. "Kitsuyu-chan." He nodded excitedly, gently scooping up the tiny white and blue slug before presenting her proudly to his mother. "I managed to get a tiny Kitsuyu. Since she's tiny, she's Kitsuyu-chan." The older blonde snickered. "And is Kitsuyu okay with that?" "It's actually quite refreshing to have such a humbling honorific," the slug answered. "But I'm afraid I must be going, Naruto-kun." And with that she poofed from existence. Still the smaller blonde beamed with pride, his smile contagious. Tsunade knelt and ruffled his hair before he tackled her into a hug. "I love you, Ka-chan." No matter how many times the Sannin heard that, it made her tear up just like the first time. "I love you too, Naru-chan." Shizune watched from a distance and smiled wistfully. Part of her wanted a child of her own, but she knew she wasn't yet old enough or strong enough for such a responsibility. So she settled for being Shizune-chan, smiling as he master and mother figure hugged her little brother. A scream shocked the family into looking towards the village they were temporarily staying in. Naruto, in a burst of speed, rushed past his sister with Tsunade hot on his trail. Shizune hurried after them, only to gasp as they came face to face with a group of 12 men, each armed with an axe or katana. In the middle of the circle was a small group of women, some only slightly older than Naruto, other as old as Shizune. The smaller blonde had vanished, though the atmosphere had gotten very hot. Both Kunoichi knew what it meant. Hell, they were in the middle of a training session when the boy inadvertently activated a part of his Kekkei Genkai. The resulting trip to Konohagakure and conversation with Hiruzen about a Kekkei Genkai that caused steam to be emitted from the skin paired with extreme strength led to the memory of when they'd first taken him from the village. The Yondaime sealed the five-tailed Biju within the boy shortly after his birth, the creature known for giving its known Jinchuriki the fire and water release affinities, thus resulting in the nature transformation Kekkei Genkai known as the boil release. So when Naruto used Tsunade's heavenly spear kick on the largest of the bandits and kicked a literal hole into the man's chest, the elder blonde and her protege knew that they were going to have to up his training so that he wouldn't go around literally punching heads off, as he just demonstrated the ability to do so. "Damn it. Everything okay, Tsunade-sama?" Shizune asked as she proceeded to take the sake from her master's grasp. She swore the woman had been about to pour a drink when she froze up. The distant look in her deep brown eyes faded as she seemed to come back from wherever or whenever she just was. Yeah. Just nostalgia. The dark-haired woman looked at her master curiously as a sad and longing smile curving her lips. Tsunade looked at the woman she'd long since seen as a daughter. "Naru-chan is growing up too fast," she whispered. "Remember when he was punching and kicking literal holes into those bandits?" Shizune chuckled, remembering how pale she'd been at the time. He broke down and cried for a while afterwards. Your strength mixed with the effects of his Kekkei Genkai is quite the scary thing. Now sensei sent my baby on a C-ranked mission. I know he's been in more dangerous scenarios, but at the very least one of us were there to make sure that everything didn't go to shit. The woman sighed. I know it's just the mother in me talking, but I can't help but be worried. The only shinobi he's fought were us, and that was just sparring. Then that means that they need to be Jonin or Kage level at the very least to make him sweat, right? Shizune placed a calming hand on her shoulder. Besides, he's with his Jonin sensei and team. That's what I'm worried about. 8 points, the eerie whisper seemed to resonate throughout the entire mist-filled area, threatening and promising a grisly death for all who dare continue this foolish quest. Larynx. Spine. Lungs. Liver. Jugular. Subclavian artery. Kidneys. Heart. Sakura was panicking, albeit quietly. Sasuke was sweating. Naruto was unnerved, but tried his damnedest not to show it. Now, the gravelly whisper continued. Which will be my kill point? Kakashi gathered his chakra and in a wicked burst, removed the mist from the surrounding area. Sasuke, panicking more so than even Sakura, though keeping it internal, began to reach for a kunai. He needed an escape, and his own death would be the perfect escape. Unfortunately for him, Naruto chose that moment to grab his arm, though his own body was shaking. I won't heal a coward, the blonde snarled. Sasuke, Kakashi's voice cut through the tension and the venom in Naruto's voice. Calm down. I will not let my comrades die. Trust me. He looked over her shoulder and gave his patented eye smile, showing that he was calm and in control. Tsunade gasped. I wouldn't be so sure. Zabuza was crouched in between the genin and civilian, poised to attack. Naruto reacted on pure instinct, weaving the tiger, horse, rabbit, rat, and dog hand seals. Chakra, scalpel. He spun on his heel and with his right hand, coated invisible chakra that looked more akin to the tip of a double-edged sword, slashed Zabuza's throat. The man's head came off, but his body erupted into water, falling into a useless puddle at their feet. Impressive genin you have, Kakashi. Zabuza stood on the water's surface, a grin on his face. It's been a while since anyone under the Jonin level has been able to defeat my water clones. Kakashi lowered himself into a taijutsu stance, holding his kunai in a reverse grip. Naruto cursed mentally. Did he have anything that would be helpful? Perhaps his poison mist jutsu, but that would more than likely kill his sensei, as he had yet to perfect his neurotoxin formula. Even the poisons he kept in bombs and sealing tags would affect his sensei, and that was unacceptable to the Senju heir. Damn it all to hell. Still, from his perspective, Kakashi was keeping up with the missing nin, each of them trading kill blows with a macabre beauty. Zabuza left himself open as he went to swing his sword, and Kakashi pierced the man's heart. His sword fell from his grip and he grabbed onto Kakashi before bursting into water, more water from beneath the Jonin's feet gathering and trapping him in a sphere of water. Naruto, well worried about his sensei, decided to learn that technique as it was so damn cool. Get Tsunade out of here. Kakashi shouted. Naruto's heart was pounding as he racked his brain for a plan, Zabuza conjuring 3 more water clones. He began to panic, something he hadn't done since he was 7, and was in the middle of an operation where his patient went into cardiac arrest. He tried to get his sensei, he could try to run with his teammates, he could just leave. Hell no, those last 2 weren't an option. Naruto Senju would never leave anyone under his care behind, nor did he give up. Don't forget that you are not alone, Naruto-san. A gentle feminine voice spoke rather soothingly from the back of his mind. My power is your power as you are my Jinchuriki. That made Naruto stop and take a deep breath before letting out a laugh. All sets of eyes went to him, laughing as though he went mad. He'd all but forgotten, and while they had yet to officially meet, he'd spoken to her numerous times before. Steam erupted in geysers from his body as he threw off his Heori, thickening and becoming a fog that clung to the ground. His body gained the slightest glow, and chakra once again covered his hands. Oil release. Unrivaled strength. The steam continued, superheating the chilled air at an alarming rate. Chakra, scalpel. Pushing forward from his right foot, he launched himself at the 3 clones. Slash, slash, slash. 3 heads that then turned to small puddles fell to the ground. In another burst of speed, he was in front of Zabuza, intent on relieving the man of his right arm, just as he had done to the demon brothers mere hours before. The missing nin released the jutsu and dodged, his eyes wide at the blonde rushing him like a crazed demon. Determined to not be pushed around by some blonde brat, Zabuza began to fight back, swinging his massive blade with seasoned ease. Naruto dodged easily, the speed granted to him by his Kekkei Genkai allowed him to move in for a counter-attack and back off before he was cleaved in 2. Zabuza swung his blade in a horizontal sweep. Naruto jumped over it and delivered a staggering kick that was blocked by the man's free hand. He twisted, cracking his jaw with a powerful uppercut that sent the rogue sailing a few feet away. Are you okay, Kakashi-sensei? He asked as the steam stopped erupting from his flesh. The Jonin nodded. You fought well, Naruto, but now it's time to. He didn't finish. The blonde was gone, Sakura standing in his place as the massive sword was shoved through his chest, bursting from his back in an explosion of blood. Ino couldn't help but wonder where her fellow blonde was. Lately, he'd been avoiding her, so she never had the chance to ask him to teach her some new things. Being a mind walker would only get her so far, especially at her current level. Not that Asuma-sensei wasn't a good teacher, he was great. But he focused more on their training as a group. As the new generation Ino-Shikacho combination, it was necessary for Choji, Shikamaru, and herself to be flawless. Truthfully, it got irritating at times. Even still, aside from working on tree walking, D-ranked missions and combination attacks, it was boring, and Ino didn't feel like she was making any progress. How was she supposed to get Sasuke-kun's attention if she wasn't stronger than that damned forehead girl? Perhaps she should go on a different diet. She looked out of the window of the flower shop to see Tsunade and Shizune. Shizune looked frazzled, while Tsunade laughed at her. Moving hurriedly from behind the counter, she shot out of the store in order to catch up to them. Tsunade-sama, Shizune-san. The two women turned to see Ino, one of the girls that Naruto brought to the hospital their first day back in Konoha. Ino? Tsunade made a habit of remembering the names of any female that stood too close to her Sachi, as it seemed to happen far more than she liked. What's wrong? She shook her head. Nothing's wrong. I was just wondering if either of you knew where Naruto was. Tsunade narrowed her eyes dangerously at the girl. Why? She began shaking under the intense scrutiny of the elder blonde. Wanted to see if he wanted to train with me. Shizune giggled, despite looking like something was feverishly working on her very last shred of patience. She knew how protective her master could get of Naruto when it came to girls his own age, among other things. He went out on a mission, Shizune informed the blue-eyed girl, saving her from the intense and frankly frightening stare of the Senju matriarch. He and his team left earlier today, don't worry though, he'll be back soon. Tsunade looked to her apprentice incredulously. Like she was helping this young girl garner her son's attention, which wasn't the case, of course. The rational part of her brain told her that she was being irrational, as per usual when it came to her son. That rational part, however, would soon be drowned out by some delicious dango and sake. The sudden wave of nausea hit Tsunade, and she stumbled before regaining her footing. Both Ino and Shizune stared at her curiously. Something was wrong. Naruto coughed, globs of blood shot from his mouth to the ground. Zabuza felt his eyes widen. Sasuke was on the floor, as was Tazuna, both staring at the pierced blonde before them. Kakashi felt his blonde run cold, and Sakura felt tears running down her face. That was supposed to be her. Why? She whispered, her voice suddenly hoarse. The third clause, the blonde choked out to no one in particular, as he delivered a punch that split the blade embedded in his chest in two. No medic nin shall ever die until they are the last of their platoon. Crimson and blue chakra swirled mightily around the blonde as he removed the portion of the sword from his chest and threw it to the ground. The diamond seal on his forehead glowed strangely before it faded, leaving black markings of his face. Ninja art. Creation rebirth. He grabbed Zabuza by the throat and slammed him to the ground before them. His hair shadowed his eyes as he picked the missing nin up and slammed him again, before throwing him in a crumpled heap at Kakashi's feet. Slowly and shakily, the man stood, much to Sakura's panic. In a yellow flash, the taller of the Jonin was sent flying. He crashed into a tree just as two senbon pierced his neck. A shinobi wearing the mask of a Kirigakure hunter nin came and picked up the stilled body of Zabuza before they wordlessly vanished. What the hell was all Sasuke could manage as the blonde started to fall. Kakashi appeared crouched in front of him, allowing the Senju heir to fall onto his back. Tazuna, which way is it to your house? Ino was, for lack of a better term, confused. Her thoughts from the day prior as well as her words to Sakura on graduation day were both playing repeatedly at the forefront of her mind. Her words and thought pattern were conflicting. Hey, if I can get close to him, maybe he'll teach me some cool jutsu or how to heal. That simple phrase, as harmless as it may sound to the untrained or male ear, was basically handing Sasuke-kun over to her former friend and rival with her blessings. It was as though she were saying, Sasuke is all yours, Naruto-kun is far more interesting and worthy of my pursuit. Wait, Naruto-kun? She mused aloud. She'd only just met the guy. Wasn't it far too early to start applying affectionate honorifics to his name? Okay, technically she'd known him for about a month and day, and they often hung out together after running into each other. Okay, that wasn't true. She waited for him at strategic locations around the village for a chance to try and work that good old Yamanaka charm on him. Okami, I'm becoming forehead. Ino thought, slumping at the thought. But then at the same time, just yesterday, she wondered if her training with Naruto would garner the attention of the Uchiha. Her thought pattern was counterproductive. Get the attention of the Senju heir and make him like you, or use the training he'll agree to in order to win the affection of the Uchiha heir. Gah. Everything was so confusing. One thing did stand out to her though. When he carried her bridal style to the hospital, Ino found herself unconsciously snuggling closer. Even blushing profusely at the feel of those iron-like muscles. Not that she'd ever admitted, of course. With a sigh and a look at the time, Ino rose out of her bed and prepared to meet with her team as they had another training exercise. When Naruto opened his eyes, the first thing he noticed was that he was no longer where he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be in the land of waves. Instead, he stood in a clearing of sorts, in what seemed to be a forest if the thickening trees surrounding the area was any indication. All of a sudden he sneezed. His first thought was to wonder who was talking about him. His second, however, was to ponder about the warm and very soothing chakra that was currently surrounding him. Fog clung to the grass beneath his feet, the dew on the blades, reflecting the majesty of the ethereal light of the waxing crescent moon above. It was beautiful, too much so. Turning around once more, he found himself face to face with a massive creature that held the air of familiarity. It had the body of a gargantuan white horse, but the head of a dolphin, 4 horns adorning its crown. A weird amalgamation of creatures, to be sure, but with 5 tails that waved serenely in the air, each tip tan just like the hooves. Ho-chan. The creature gestured in a manner similar to a smile, which was certainly off-putting to Naruto. With a nod, she proceeded to lay down before him. He was looking at the gobi. Easily the most majestic out of her siblings, Kakum seemed to be the living embodiment of serenity. But the smile soon disappeared and was replaced with a look that struck terror into the heart of the young Senju. A feat that wasn't necessarily easy by any means, but there was something about the otherworldly fury on the face of his Bijuu that he found nightmarish. "Hello, Naruto-kun." Her tone was polite, almost as ethereal as the moonlight bathing them, but still retaining an upset firmness. "Well, I am glad to officially meet you. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you not to do that again." "The what?" he asked densely, before his memories returned with a vengeance. Fighting Zabuza toe-to-toe, saving Kakashi-sensei, performing the substitution jutsu on Sakura so that he would get impaled by the missing nin sword instead of her. Using the forbidden ninja art of creation rebirth and promptly beating the shit out of Zabuza as the stab wound closed. The senbon that pierced a pressure point on his neck as the Kiri Hunter nin took him away. If he wasn't mistaken, that was a specified pressure point that put one into an induced coma. Even he didn't like to mess with that particular point. Looking around at his surroundings again, Naruto came to the conclusion that he wasn't dead. No doubt the pure world looked different than this, as he wasn't particularly one to just arbitrarily stare at the moon. Working under moonlight, however, was one of the best feelings in the "oh holy shit. You aren't dead, Naruto-kun," Kakum explained. "Rather, we are within you." If his research on Jinchuriki was any good, then that would mean they were within his mind. An odd thought, given that once sealed into a human, the Bijuu and their Jinchuriki become connected at the spiritual level. Even if he were to undo the seal used, which was child's play thanks to the perverted Toad Sage, he and Kakum would remain inseparable. He would be able to draw on her chakra, and she would still die if and when he did. "Well, that's good news at least." He nodded sagely. "Means I can work on healing the citizens of the wave when I wake up and then work on analyzing that poison I liberated from the demon brothers." "Are you crazy?" The Bijuu paused and eyed her twin soul. "Look who I'm talking to." "Of course you are. The hell is that supposed to mean?" Kakum looked at the blonde incredulously. "You jumped in front of a massive sword to save someone when you could have undoubtedly just pushed her out of the way. You aren't some clanless nobody, and without a doubt people would have been devastated if you died." "But I didn't die," Naruto shot back. In reality, it was virtually impossible for Naruto to die in combat due to the 2 forbidden medical ninjutsu passed down to him from his mother. The forbidden ninja art of creation rebirth is a jutsu that released insane amounts of chakra from the strength of 100 seal on the user's forehead in order to heal virtually an internal and external wounds. It's because of this release of chakra that the body's cell division is stimulated to the extreme. Unfortunately, it didn't heal damaged cells. Rather, it created new cells at such a rate that it didn't matter, thus resulting in the instantaneous healing. The only drawback is that the user's lifespan is shortened every time they use the technique. On the other hand, the ninja art creation rebirth strength of 100 is a forbidden technique that healed instantly via accelerated cellular division, granted the user still has chakra left to use. Destroyed organs could even be repaired before one's very eyes. Theoretically, the user could be bisected, and as long as they were still breathing, they could reattach the halves of their body. The healing power can also be passed on to another through direct physical contact. So long as the jutsu is active, the user cannot die. So unless he grew to Uchiha levels of arrogance, or someone got a really lucky or well-placed shot off on him, he was a combat immortal. That's not the point, Naruto-kun. It's the principle of the matter. Naruto sighed. I saved her and I still had enough time and breath to perform the creation rebirth. That's all that matters. You were being a martyr. Kakum seethed. Naruto scoffed at the ridiculous notion. I would never martyr myself just for some fangirl to make feeble attempts to fuck the object of her obsession. Her ambition is pathetic. Besides, I haven't even started learning senjutsu yet, so it's not like I'm just going to let myself get killed. Oh great, he thought sourly. Now I sound like that fucking Uchiha. Do you dare change the subject, Naruto Senju? He looked at the overreacting Biju. What's wrong with you, Kakum-chan? Normally, he had a tendency to be the unreasonable one of the pair. Usually, she was the voice of reason. Despite being highly intelligent, Naruto had moments where he was ruled by his emotions or by a sudden aloofness. You could have died. The Biju roared angrily. Naruto's facial expression changed to that of confusion, but he didn't say anything more than a mumbled apology. It wasn't like she would die if he did. If anything, it could be considered a brief hiatus from the world. The Biju are creatures that are made of chakra, they are literally living, breathing chakra. Chakra is energy, the energy that is within and surrounds all things. Energy cannot be created or destroyed unless one was the Rikidam Sannin, but instead, it is only transferred. Death to a Biju is to be dispersed until their chakra is capable of reforming in a different area at a different time. That time could be anywhere from a year to a century. In short, Kakum and her 8 siblings were perfect immortals. Thus don't do it again, Naruto-kun. She sighed tiredly. I actually like you. Kakum, unlike a majority of her siblings, didn't particularly mind being tied to a Jinchuriki. It sure beat the hell out of being bored all day. Even if she was a pacifist. On that note, a thought came to Naruto. Say, Kakum-chan. Do you have a human form? Kakum gave him a droll stare. No, Naruto-kun. I'm just a being of infinite chakra that can level entire mountain ranges with a sudden movement of the tip of one of my tails. As such, I cannot imagine that I would have something so minuscule as a human form. You're in a sassy mood today. Naruto stated dryly. A very shouty and sassy mood. Be glad it's assy and not slappy. She said as she flashed the horns on her head. Or stabby. Naruto shuddered and willed himself to wake with that horrifying thought. Compared to her, he was an ant. Getting impaled by one of her horns would more than likely mess him up that neither of his forbidden techniques would be able to help him. Some pacifist you are. Naruto opened his eyes and merely laid on a rather comfortable mattress. His body was sore. Then again, he did take a sword to the chest. Nigh immortal or not, he was not doing that again anytime soon. Immediately, he became aware of the other chakra signature in the plain room he was in. It was small, but had potential. He sat up slowly, looking upon a shock of pink hair and viridescent eyes. Sakura? He rasped. She looked conflicted for reasons Naruto couldn't fathom. How are you feeling, and Naruto? He shrugged. Sore. She cracked a faint smile, but it faded almost as fast as it appeared. The conflict rose once again in her eyes, almost as if she didn't know if she wanted to do whatever it was she planned. Did Kakashi-sensei start us doing any training? Naruto asked. He had us start tree walking. Naruto rolled his eyes. Why in the middle of a C-rank turned B-rank mission when they didn't know if another threat was going to jump out of the woodwork? Alright, he started to get up. Why? Naruto paused and looked at the girl. He didn't say anything. She could be asking why he relieved the demon brothers of their arms, then killed them. She could be asking why he was getting up so soon after being injured. She could be asking why he took the blade for her. Why what? He finally asked. Sakura suddenly found her shinobi sandals highly interesting as she fidgeted with the hem of her kippao. Her voice was very quiet. Why did you sacrifice yourself for me? He sighed. Because I didn't think you'd be able to get out of the way in time. Sasuke probably didn't even see it coming. I didn't think Kakashi-sensei would get there fast enough either, not that I think he wouldn't have been fast enough. Besides, I figured that I could heal off whatever was done to me, provided I wasn't decapitated, that is. Thank you Naruto. She whispered. How did you move so fast? Naruto stretched as he stood and held his right arm out, heating his chakra and allowing the steam to rise from his palm. Some of it is my natural speed. Some of it is my Kekkei Genkai, the boil release. Basically, it allows me to superheat my chakra to the boiling point and it gives me a massive boost of strength and speed. Sakura raised a brow, the bookworm within rousing excitedly. I've never heard of that Kekkei Genkai. Can you tell me about it, please? It's a nature transformation Kekkei Genkai, which means I have the 2 nature affinities that make the nature transformation, and my body mixes them to get the desired result. It's a mix of fire release and water release chakra natures. Wow, Sakura breathed. So do you know any water or fire release jutsu? Naruto shook his head. No, I've been focusing on trying to match my Ka-chan and Ni-chan in medical ninjutsu. I'm good, but I'm obviously not even close to their levels. But I do plan to learn. Oh, Sakura once again looked like she was part of a heavy internal debate, but after a few minutes she steeled herself and took a steadying breath. I'm sorry that I was mean to you, Naruto. I know that it might not be enough, but the past is in the past. We're teammates. Though he really didn't want to be, but hey, whatever. If you need help training or anything, just know I'm here to help. The Pincat smiled brightly and nodded. Rising from her place, clearly proud of how everything turned out, she left and soon Kakashi came into the room. Naruto looked up at the one-eyed Jonin. He grinned, hoping that the fact that he possessed the Sharingan was severely screwing with the Uchiha mentally. Yo, sensei. How are you feeling, my cute little genin? He gave his patented eye smile. I'm glad to see you up. Thanks. I'm a little sore, but I'll live. There was growling at the edge of his consciousness. No doubt Ko-chan still wasn't over his decision to take the blade for the girl. Though if she told him what the actual issue was, then they could work on it and move past it. I would hope so. I could only imagine what Tsunade-sama would do to me if her one and only son died under my care. The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. Naruto chuckled. Then we might want to leave me getting stabbed out of the mission report. Hell, if I died, she might have resurrected me just to kill me herself. His mother could be quite ridiculous at times, but he loved her. Do you know where the hospital is, by any chance? Might as well get acquainted before I start working on analyzing the demon brothers' weapons and poison. Kakashi shook his head no, but suggested that he ask the bridge builder's daughter. When Naruto asked about training, Kakashi said that he'd be happy to teach the boy a few water release and fire release techniques, especially since he'd already mastered tree and water walking. After a short conversation about his affinities and his Kekkei Genkai, they left the room. Something the Jonin learned about one of his genin was that his favorite jutsu revolves around poison, though he probably shouldn't have been as surprised as he was, given his introduction. Unlike his sister, he could produce numerous venoms via the jutsu, whereas hers were all fatal. Together, Naruto and Kakashi left the room and made their way into the kitchen. In the kitchen was a woman with blue hair and delicate features. By Kami, she was gorgeous. In fact, he was in the pure world as stared into her ethereal eyes. Then he heard a voice. The Nari, the son of the heavenly woman standing before him with a smile, thought it his place to alert Team 7 of the futility their mission against Gato. Naruto was instantly annoyed. This wasn't the first time he'd heard the boy yell. In fact, while he was in and out of consciousness, he heard the initial tirade and learned that his name was Inari. He walked up to the boy and knelt before him, resting a hand on his shoulder. Listen. We are not heroes. We're shinobi, healers and killers that promised we would protect your grandfather. Once again prophesying the imminent demise of Team 7 at the hands of Gato after insulting the blonde, Inari quit the room in a rather rude fashion. His mother called after him, but then turned and apologized to the Konoha shinobi. Kakashi waved her away and gestured to Naruto. This is Naruto Senju. He introduced as the blonde bowed respectfully to the mother. And he wanted to know if you could show him to the hospital. She smiled kindly. I'd be glad to. Are you a medic? Yep, he smiled with obvious pride. For the next 2 weeks, Team 7 had been very busy. Sakura and Sasuke worked on mastering their tree walking skills while guarding Tazuna in shifts. Due to her small chakra reserves, the Pincat mastered it with little to no effort on her half, much to the ire of her dark-haired teammate. If not in the Wave Hospital, performing operations and teaching the nurses or guarding the bridge builder when it was his turn, he was training with Kakashi. Between sparring and ninjutsu, he was able to fine-tune his particular style of combat. Usually, that boiled down to move fast and deal a lot of damage. He'd been sloppy in his fight with Zabuza. In truth, he was mainly accustomed to fighting untrained bandits or disgraced samurai. The citizens of the Wave all knew him by name, and no matter how much they insisted that they didn't refer to him with any kind of honorific, the older civilians referred to him the Sama honorific. It irritated him, but due to his dream, he figured that he should just get used to it. His uncles and mother were referred to as Sama. But not guarding Tazuna at the bridge, helping at the hospital, or training with Kakashi and his team, he would help Tsunami around the house. The woman was a pleasure to be around, and they got to know each other better than Naruto would have expected. The day before he met Haku, a rather beautiful woman that claimed to be a man, Inari had once again taken up his hobby of preaching about how inevitable Team 7's defeat was. Having had enough, Naruto stood in front of the boy and gave him a kunai that he personally infused with poison. A poison so deadly that the smallest scratch was guaranteed to put even the strongest of shinobi down. Naturally, he gave Tsunami 3 vials of the antidote. Gato is a little man that hides behind money. The Senju had told the boy. He has no true power. And if we don't kill him, you can stab me with that kunai. I don't think even I could survive that. A half-lie, given the fact that he was immune to any poison he created. Something he personally sought to. But the poison on that sheathed kunai destroyed the body at the molecular level. After delivering his promise, he left to meditate. Needless to say, Kakuya was highly upset with the promise he made to the boy, as she thought he was once again playing the part of a martyr. Naruto knew that he wasn't, as he fully intended to kill the little man for what he'd done to the land of waves. It was disgusting. Hell, he couldn't even count the number of thugs and bandits he'd put down while walking around. At night, he'd inadvertently set out through the night. He was analyzing the poison within the gauntlets of the demon brothers and even managed to find that the chains were made of chakra metal. He was going to have a little too much fun for hours to come. When he opened his eyes, he was face to face with a woman that was almost as beautiful as Tsunade, with expressive brown eyes and dark hair that fell to her shoulders and framed her fair face. In her arms was a basket, but he could also see the faint glint of metal within the weaving of the basket. A senbon. You shouldn't sleep out here, she smiled. You'll catch a cold. Naruto sat up and smiled. It'll take a lot more than a cold to keep me down. Like a sword to the chest, he thought, chuckling at his own macabre humor. Kakuya rolled her eyes and went to sleep. Naruto and Haku continued to converse as he helped her gather herbs for her injured friend. Naruto liked her, she was kind but blunt. Her eyes, while very expressive, held a deep sadness to them. It reminded him of his mother in a way. When he got back to Konoha, he was going to take her and his sister out. Just the three of them. After Haku left, he went back to Tsunade's house, where he was met by a worried Tsunade and Kakashi. Surprisingly, Sakura was also worried about where he'd been. Weird, after their little talk, he and Sakura had become closer. Of course, she still obsessed over Sasuke, and Naruto still more than happily ignored it. He had the feeling, though, that tomorrow was going to be one hell of a day. Darkness comes. Many lie down to sleep. Some do not get up again. Naruto shuddered at the memory of one of the first things that Kakum had ever told him. He'd just turned 6 when he became aware of her presence, and they were soon fast friends. There were times where he wondered if he and his Biju could ever be more than friends, but then common sense took over and forced him to question how exactly that would work itself out. Even with the blood running in his veins that caused him to live well over 300 years, he didn't know if that would be enough time. Perhaps he should have joined Uncle Orochimaru in his pursuit of perfect immortality. Nah, he'd just be another Kabuto. He could live without that. There was banging at the front door that kept him from Naruto from his thoughts. The banging became more and more violent, the wooden door soon splintering and breaking. Those bastards, Naruto thought. How dare those fucks break down someone's door like they own it. Granted, his mother often did it when his uncle Jiraiya got too handsy, but technically it wasn't her breaking it. She simply punched the ever-loving life out of the toad sage and sent him crashing into and through the nearest construct. If it wasn't one of Orochimaru's ramen which Naruto had been privy to on that particular day, it was a ceiling or door. Naruto sighed and ceased arguing semantics with himself as he returned to the issue at hand. Behind him, Tsunade held Inari close to her, while the boy held a loaded crossbow in his hands. He was ready to protect the woman who held onto him with the intent of taking whatever blow would come their way as she turned to protect him. It reminded him briefly of his sister that would hold him close whenever his mother went on her bi-weekly rampage. Hopefully he missed the one that no doubt almost leveled most of Konoha. Hell, he'd be surprised if there was even a Konoha left by the time he and his team returned. If there was, it wouldn't be that way long once she learned of his brief moment of martyr-like stupidity. Out of the way, brat. The taller of the two men tried to push past Naruto and scowled with the boy, didn't budge an inch. Instead, the blonde stepped on his foot and loosed an uppercut into the man's stomach. Naruto had seen his mother liquefy someone's insides before, but as he did and the man expelled horrid-smelling viscera in the form of crimson liquid, he could only say that it felt weird. The man crumpled into a lifeless heap in his own liquefied innards. "Fix the damn door," he said, only to facepalm moments afterwards. He killed the man before he told them to. For fuck's sake, he thought. Ko-chan, I'm a failure. The snickering at the edge of his consciousness let him know that she found his plight entertaining. The other man standing in the broken door shook in terror. He thought that the blonde boy was nothing more than the bitch's bastard son, but he only knew he was wrong when cold blue eyes rested on his own. Before he could turn and run, a hand wrapped tightly around his throat. "Now here's the fun part," Naruto said with a sadistic smile. "You're going to answer my 2 questions truthfully and I'm going to kill you. Blink twice if you understand." "Don't you mean or, Naruto-kun?" Naruto ignored the teasing tone as the man obeyed, blinking twice before he felt both his colon and bladder relieve themselves simultaneously. The killing intent the blonde emanated through eye contact alone was unlike anything the disgraced samurai had come across before. It was both humbling and beyond terrifying. "Where is Gato?" The simple fact that the boy's voice was so calm when his eyes promised a fate worse than the man he killed moments prior was even more nightmare-inducing than the look in his eyes. The man resolved himself to, if he somehow survived this encounter, return to the land of iron and beg Mifune Dono's forgiveness. Oh, on his way to the B bridge? He stammered out. Naruto nodded. And why were you and your friend here? We were just following orders. To get the bridge builder's family and bring them back to the bridge. Naruto nodded and tightened his grip on the man's throat, forcing his mouth to open wider. The blonde licked his lips and did the one thing he'd been dying to do since the day before the bell test. Ninja art. Poison mist. He exhaled, blowing a dense purple fog directly into the man's open mouth and nostrils before he released his grip. The disgraced samurai inhaled greedily, taking in as much oxygen as he could. His body seized up immediately, frozen and trembling. Naruto knew that it felt like every single cell within the man's body was simultaneously melting and being pierced. As the man struggled to breathe, Naruto conjured 2 shadow clones and hooked his thumb in the direction of the corpse still in the house. Please clean that up and protect them until we get back. The clones gave crisp salute with a broad grin. You got it, boss. With a wink to the mother and son, who were looking at him as though he were Kami incarnate, Naruto vanished. I see that blonde brat of yours is gone. Zabuza grinned viciously. I still have a bone to pick with him. Kakashi said nothing, struggling to hold his ground against the missing nin, his kunai grinding against the sword. None of his usual tricks were working. It was as though their brief battle opened his mind to the mind games the Sharingan wielder normally employed to gain the upper hand. I'll admit, Zabuza continued as he blocked a punch from the other man. I felt a little bad for the brat taking the blade to the chest. In fact, I was hoping to get you. The Konoha-nin scowled, having figured as much already. Something felt off. Acting off basest instinct, Kakashi backflipped away the exact moment that a shock of blonde made itself known. Boil release. Unrivaled strength. Zabuza eyed Kakashi wearily, thinking it was another one of the other man's mind games. Heavenly spear kick. Snap. Zabuza arched his back involuntarily, the force of the blow forcing the grip on his blade to fade entirely. The sensation of the attack was bizarre. It was instant pain unlike anything he'd ever felt before, but in a flash it was gone, and he couldn't feel anything below the waist. The older man's body was flung like a ragdoll, rolling across the bridge and landing at Kakashi's feet. His breathing was erratic, his face contorted with both pain and confusion. Truthfully speaking, Haku had been telling him to just forget the job. His tool had a sinking suspicion that this would be, perhaps, their last mission. Even now, as he stared up at the shocked and pitiful gaze of Kakashi of the Sharingan, he thought that he should have taken Haku's advice. Zabuza-sama. The roar was furious, a cry that held deepest emotion for the owner of the name. The dome of mirrors made from crystallized ice chakra immediately crumbled, revealing Sasuke, who looked like a pincushion and figure in a Kiri Hunter nin mask. In a burst of speed, the masked nin abandoned the unmoving Uchiha and appeared before Naruto. In both hands, the shinobi held 3 senbon in between the spaces of their fingers. They were fast. Lightning chakra coated Naruto's right hand, and as he ducked the initial attack, he touched the back of the masked nin's neck. Body pathway derangement. Naruto allowed the lightning chakra to attack the other shinobi's nervous system, rearranging the signals of the body. The masked nin fell, as their feet didn't seem to follow whatever directions given. Instead, they struggled to even move properly. Naruto walked up and removed the porcelain mask as Sakura rushed over to Sasuke. He gasped. Haku, Naruto muttered, though part of him wasn't surprised. Having met literally everyone that was a citizen, she was the only one aside from the smattering of thugs and bandits that he put in the ground that he couldn't recognize. Even still, he thought nothing of helping her pick herbs for her friend's well-being. Please, just stay still. I don't want to kill you. She glared at him with a look of deepest loathing, a look that he returned backed by monstrous killing intent. Her glare was immediately replaced by the look of fear as the killing intent worthy of tailed beast washed over her. Naruto didn't take too kindly to being glared at. Only 2 people were immune, 4 if he counted his teammates. He seldom did. There was a slow clapping as a group of some 500 men joined the shinobi on the bridge. Each of the men wielded a weapon, a sword, axe, a length of chain. Naruto giggled to himself at his luck. Now the people he was coming across were definitely utilizing chain, so that he could add more and more to the jutsu he more or less created the night before he met Haku. Well. The short man in a rather fancy suit and shades said. What? Naruto, cool and collected, picked up Zabuza's sword. It had a nice weight to it, ensuring that no weakling would be able to wield it. With a look of utmost jubilation, he looked to his sensei. Okay, this is going to be some of the most fun I've had. He snickered as steam began to erupt from his body once more. Kakashi began to wonder what the boy meant before he turned the blade in hand, holding it in a reverse grip. With his left hand, he held up a one-handed ram seal and smiled at the solid clone that appeared with its own broad grin. "Go long," said the original as he threw the sword like a spear, his boil release enhanced strength, making it act as a projectile fired from a cannon. There was more steam as the clone raced forward in a blur of white and yellow. The schluck let Naruto know that he hit his target since Gato was at the front of his group of 300. The little man was skewered on the blade of the Kubikurabjm, his blood being absorbed the weapon. The blonde clone appeared at Gato's flank and grabbed the hilt of the sword before the force with which it was thrown could take now dead man off of his feet. Ninja art. Poison mist. When Naruto's clone returned to his side, he roared an exhale, a dense purple fog engulfing the small army of 300. Immediately, the bandits and former samurai started coughing and dropping, one by one, then 10 by 10 until they'd all hit the floor. Well, that was anticlimactic, he thought. I would have expected at least one of them to hold their breath. Dumbasses. What do you think, Ko-chan? The scoff at the back of his mind was his answer. He chuckled and turned back to the group. Sakura was happy that Sasuke was okay, though she looked rather fearfully at the blonde, while Sasuke looked put off at the display of a jutsu that he'd never heard of. Either that, or he was upset that Haku managed to show him a true elite. Kakashi, Haku, and Zabuza were gobsmacked at the boy that had the Kubikurabjm resting on his shoulder with Gato impaled on it. Naruto Nai. The whole of the land of waves stood before them, armed and ready to war. This, of course, was before Naruto swung the sword and relieved it of the now lifeless body of the minuscule tyrant at their feet. They stared at him, then the corpse, then back to him. All jaws were dropped. "You're free." He smiled. "A month." That was how long her baby had been away from home. Tsunade sighed, which was quickly followed by a sigh from Shizune. They both missed the little bowl of sunshine dearly. They knocked on the door to the Hokage's office. "Come in." The buxom blonde and her apprentice entered before catching sight of Team 7 and the bright goofy grin on the face of the blonde. "Ah, Tsunade, Shizune-chan. Come in and hear about the exploits of Team 7. Naruto sat under a tree on the empty training ground 7, enjoying the silence. He and his team had been given the next week off to recuperate from their mission. Naruto maintained that it was some of the most fun he'd had since moving permanently to Konohagakure. He found it funny how they showed up in the Hokage's office merely seconds after they'd come in to report. "The exploits of Team 7, huh?" Tsunade said, raising a brow expectantly. The more collected of the two, Shizune looked several years younger after looking upon the face of her beloved younger brother. He could tell that she was taking his absence just as hard as his mother had been. Hell, Tsunade still looked as though she were ready to rampage if it sounded like anything untoward had happened to him specifically. "Alright, Junin Kakashi and Team 7. Hiruzen greeted them professionally, his tone shifting to Hokage mode. "Welcome back from your mission. I take it you were successful." Kakashi nodded crisply. "Yes, Hokage-sama." Hiruzen returned the nod. Full report. Kakashi launched into the tale of the past month, telling about the attack of Kiragakure's demon brothers, Tazuna's plea, the attack from Zabuza, and the final battle, all of which the blonde genin had an active role in. Each word spoken made Hiruzen's brows rise higher, while the pride in the hearts of the two medical kunoichi swelled thicker and thicker. He told of the exploits of the whole team, though remained professional as he omitted the constant date Sakura had asked Sasuke on, and the constant demands for a fight that Sasuke made to Naruto. Of course, Naruto continually dismissed his teammate as he was too busy helping in the hospital. He flinched when his sensei mentioned his whole getting stabbed deal, but grinned when he mentioned the one-kick victory he held over Zabuza. Afterwards, he picked up Zabuza's sword and speared Gato with it. When the clone returned to his side with the impaled corpse, he performed a sealess jutsu that allowed him to release a poison gas from his mouth. Truth be told, the whole final battle was kind of anticlimactic, but he healed Sasuke and Zabuza. Naruto nodded as the tall man, who now walked with an extremely subtle limp, and the girl who claimed to be his tool, entered the Hokage's office. Hiruzen raised a questioning brow as Tsunade and Shizune swapped concerned looks. "The brat broke my spine with a kick," Zabuza grumbled, as though it pained him to admit. "He healed me after everything was said and done, but asked if I could teach him my water prison and hiding and mist techniques." Tsunade guffawed, thinking it was poetic justice in a way. He ran her son through with a sword, only to get spinal tapped in the end. Shizune, on the other hand, at least had the decency to attempt to stifle her laughter with a cough. Needless to say, that made Haku uncomfortable and pissed Zabuza off more than admitting that a kid broke his spine. Naruto only sighed in relief that his mother didn't try to kill his sensei, Zabuza, or him for the whole getting stabbed incident, unless she was biding her time. Now that was a terrifying thought. "You've got to be kidding me," said Naruto as he analyzed the poison wielded by the demon brothers. "That's what I was missing for a neurotoxin formula this entire time." He hurriedly unsealed a single notebook, flipped to the last page, and wrote the chemical makeup and antidote and made other notes. He was scribbling away, his pen moving so fast that it was making an audible sound. Needless to say, Naruto was a bit miffed. How had those two mediocre chunin know how to make neurotoxin this potent and he didn't? Though, to be fair, he could have gone to Yamanaka's flowers and just picked up some neurotoxin from there and analyzed it. But then that would have involved him running into Ino, and much like his pink-haired teammate, she would not shut up about the blessing from Kami-sama that was Sasuke Uchiha. If he was Kami's gift to the world, he would convert to Jashinism without hesitation. As if Kami herself wanted to challenge that, his fellow blonde strolled up to where he was situated and sat daintily beside him. She said nothing as he finished filling in the blanks that he left in the notebook, seemingly connecting the dots. Ino took note of the 3 open textbooks before him and 4 bowls, each housing a different liquid or liquid component. With a satisfied sigh, he closed the notebook and sealed it and the liquid-filled bowls in their respective scrolls before doing the same with his textbooks. "How was your mission?" Ino asked when his blue eyes bore into hers, messing even more with her confusing feelings. "When did you get back?" Earlier today." The other blonde shrugged and leaned back. "It was pretty fun, I guess." Inwardly, he was gushing about how he managed to liquefy that one poor bastard's insides with a single punch. It was a satisfying feeling, so much so that he released another self-satisfied sigh, topped with a nice smile. He didn't notice Ino's frown or the way she shifted uncomfortably. "Why didn't you come see me?" She could not believe she actually said that. "I would have liked to know that my friend was back from his mission. You know, the one I didn't know you were on until your sister told me." Naruto frowned a bit but decided to tease her. "What are you, my wife?" That sent Ino's mind into a frenzy, the poor blonde girl subject to her own imagination, conjuring images that were once ruled by Sasuke Uchiha, but were now dominated solely by the rather exotic-looking blonde before her. A heated blush painted her cheeks as her eyes glazed over. The sun had set over Konohagakure, plunging the village into a darkness that was offset by the light of the full moon overhead, as well as the street lamps spread throughout the village. It had been a relaxing day for Ino Senju, ni Yamanaka. Her beloved husband paid for an all-inclusive day of relaxation at the spa for her. She'd gotten a nice deep tissue massage, enjoyed a soak in the hot springs, and even had some crisp and rather expensive champagne. Yes indeed, Ino was the envy of the Kunoichi in Konohagakure. She and her husband were known as Konoha's blonde power couple. Neither of them were Kage, but due to the power they wielded and her husband's position as head of Konoha Hospital, they were greeted as Senju-sama. She loved it, but it irritated her blonde bombshell to no end. Now at their home in the Senju compound, Ino ran through everything to make sure it was perfect. After all, such a caring and diligent husband only deserves the best. Eyes alight with the flames of determination, she stripped completely and put on her husband's cooking apron. She purchased it for him a while back for his birthday as a joke. It was garishly pink with purple accents and read "Kiss the cook" or "No food." Of course, since it was from her, the blonde goofball loved it and always wore it. She would pay his levied fee, which for some strange reason always end up with her bending over the kitchen counter, not that she was complaining in the least, and he would make her a mouthwatering dinner complete with dessert. She'd heard about the somewhat cliché way of greeting one's husband from that damned forehead girl. She had Sasuke and Ino had Naruto, but that damn Pinkat would always covertly try to shoehorn in on her happiness. In any case, she'd said that the Uchiha didn't like it. Given how two males were total polar opposites, Ino decided to try her hand at it. Styling her hair in a messy bun, she made her way to the front door and sat on her knees. Thankfully, she didn't have to wait long. The lock clicked and Naruto walked in with his briefcase in one hand and a bouquet of roses in the other. Ino felt her heart sing, roses were her favorite flower. When his gaze met hers, she rose slowly before sauntering seductively closer to her husband. "Welcome home, Anata," she purred. His eyes wide, Naruto would set his briefcase down and wrap his arms around Ino's waist while she pressed her body against his. "Thanks, Ino-chan. How was your day?" "It was wonderful, thanks to you," she said, rubbing a hand across his broad chest and shoulders. "But I have a better question." "Yeah?" The roses were on top of his briefcase, now forgotten as his hands traversed her bare back and plump rear. "And what would that be? What would you like first? Dinner, a bath, or me?" Naruto, being ravenous for his wife, would press her roughly against the wall and assault her with his seasoned mouth. She loved it when he was rough. Her blonde pressed white hot kisses to her neck and, after removing the pesky apron, across her bare breasts. Down her taut tummy until he reached the glistening valley of her. "Ino." Naruto gently shook the spaced-out blonde as her nose started bleeding rather heavily. "Ino, come back to me." Green medical chakra coated his hand as he searched for any sign of damage in her body. He shook his head when he found that there was literally nothing wrong with her, wondering what caused the phenomenon of spontaneous nosebleeds. It was fascinating to the medic in him, since no matter how profusely one bled, it never subtracted from the body's natural amount of blood. In addition to that, there was never any damage done to any of the blood vessels in the nose or head to cause such powerful bursts of spontaneous bleeding. They were common in his uncle Jiraiya, and they only happened when. Great, he groused mentally. And here we have another pervert. Hopefully she isn't too pervy around Kachan, otherwise it'll get messy. Ino gave a violent twitch before she returned to the present. The bowels of her imagination was a dangerous place to be. Originally, she'd come to see if he wanted to go out sometime or get started on that lesson on poisons he agreed to all that time ago, but her little romp in Imagination Island left her wanting. But the defeated sigh, her pupilless cornflower blue eyes sudden burned with the fire of determination. She had a plan. "Welcome back to the land of the living," said Naruto in a teasing manner. "Anyway, was there something you wanted or did you just want to hang out?" Ino scoffed. "Whatever, Whiskers. And yes to both questions, I actually wanted to see if you had time to teach me about poisons like you said a while back." Upon hearing the word poison, Naruto's eyes instantly lit up with excitement. He made a movement that could be considered a twitch, but when Ino blinked, they were nearly nose to nose. The female of the blonde duo could compare the heat in her face to an open furnace. She had to admit though, his excitement was rather contagious. "Do you want to go to the hospital, the flower shop, your house, or my house?" he asked, barely containing his mounting excitement. Your house, I guess." She shrugged. "An excellent choice," he said. "My mom and sister are at the hospital, so we'll be alone. No distractions." With an excited squeal that was completely out of character for this rather masculine genin, he scooped Ino up bridal style and took off in a blur of white and blonde. In his excitement, he missed the fact that Ino resembled a blonde tomato. Tsunade and Shizune shared a smile as they made the trek back to the Senju compound. It was good to have their little ball of sunshine back in the village. Tsunade had gone on a verbal rampage after Team 7 was dismissed, and the former Kirinin were led to T&I, where they would be interrogated and detained for roughly 78 hours. She wanted to break the man that dared hurt her little Sachi. Shizune was quiet about it, but she nodded her agreement, her dark eyes hard as she glared at the tall man. There was an itch at the back of her throat that usually came when she wanted to use her signature jutsu and poison someone. And she wonders why Naruchan has the responses he does. Tsunade thought once the other woman explained why she cleared her throat when she gets riled up. It was funny how the little blonde resembled the perfect fusion of master and apprentice, with little dashes of Jiraiya and Orochimaru every now and then. Headstrong, but kind-hearted. Gentle, but viciously brutal to the point of sadism in battle. Intelligent, but ever thirsty for knowledge. Goofy enough to make anyone underestimate him, but strong enough to make anyone fear him. Truly, the heir to the Senju was a walking disparity. Tsunade found it rather enchanting to watch the complex being that was her baby boy, a weird way to describe one's child, but whatever, it worked well enough. "Where do you think Muto-kun will take us, Tsunade-sama?" Shizune asked. The boy said that he would treat them to dinner tonight, but remained secretive when they tried to coax it out of him. Unfortunately, Shizune had already gifted him the book that could have been used as a bargaining chip. The older woman looked thoughtful as they entered their home. "Probably somewhere with a sake and dongo." Tsunade-sama. "What is it, Shizune?" The dark-haired apprentice to the Sannin pointed at a second pair of shinobi sandals that rested neatly next to the black pair that Naruto wore. In comparison, the other pair was slightly small in size, possibly belonging to a young girl. A furious storm cloud could be the only thing that properly described the murderous look on Tsunade's face. She would be damned if some floozy defiled her son in their own house. With the rage of 1,000 scorned kunoichi and the stealth of the greatest Anbu, both master and apprentice raced silently upstairs. Both prayed that they didn't find the sight they imagined. Otherwise there would be hell to pay, and it would be paid with blood. Ino was astounded at the home of the Senju family, and more specifically Naruto's bedroom. Even more specifically than that, she was rather impressed with the wealth of knowledge that was held in the boys' room. 3 of the 4 walls in the bedroom were covered completely by bookshelves, each shelf loaded with various subject matters relating to medicine, anatomy, poisons and the like. Scrolls for various jutsus also littered the bookshelves. A good portion of the lower shelves were taken up by notebooks, no doubt holding the knowledge he gained from his travels over the years. There was even a couple scrolls that held the Tsunade symbol on them. Curiously, Ino opened it and read medical water release. "Jellyfish. You can use water release?" she asked. From his place in a file cabinet sandwiched in between the bookshelves, Naruto made a sound of agreement. "Yeah. Water release and fire release." That was beyond impressive. To her knowledge, Asuma-sensei could only use wind and fire release. "How can you find out what type you are?" Naruto turned to his fellow blonde with an incredulous look on his face. You don't know what your chakra natures are? Embarrassed, Ino shook her head. Naruto walked over to her after stopping by the desk beside the door and grabbed a square piece of paper. Holding it towards the girl, she looked at it, then turned her expectant gaze to him. He gestured for her to take it. She did, and that was when he started his explanation. That is litmus paper, a highly conductive paper that reacts differently to the different chakra natures. Go ahead and pour your chakra into it. Ino did, but what happened next startled her. In a threefold reaction, the paper ignited, then was immediately doused by the paper soaking itself, only for it to crumble into dust afterwards. Ino stared at Naruto dumbfounded. Naruto raised an impressed brow and nodded appreciatively. Fire release, water release, and earth release. Naruto noted. Both highly ironic and would make you training with me extremely easy. You train with me? Ino asked. Her teammates were either too lazy or too engrossed in eating to train with her, not that she bothered outside of team meetings. However, she had a plan now. Naruto nodded with a non-committal shrug. Well, we're friends, aren't we? Friends don't avoid each other. Ino countered teasingly. Once again, Naruto shrugged. Friends also don't blather on about a boy that's little more than an arrogant prick. Ino scoffed. Deep down, she knew the other blonde was right. Anyway, do you know how to do any water release and fire release jutsu? Yeah, he said, putting a single notebook and textbook down on his desk, followed by some corked vials of liquid. But we can do that another time, since you originally came for poisons. Without another word, Ino sat at the desk while Naruto stood over her. He was so close, she could feel his warmth. It wasn't normal to be so warm, and yet he was. All of a sudden the bedroom door flew off its hinges and crashed through the window. In the doorway stood his voluptuous mother and lithe sister, both carrying the looks of righteous fury on their faces. Ino jumped and squeaked frightened, pressing as close as she could to the only male in the room. Naruto sighed and looked tiredly to the two older women. Hi Ka-chan. He grinned. Hi Ni-chan. Sachi-kun, Tsunade started in a sickly sweet tone. What is she doing here? He looked down to Ino, who looked as though she were trying to phase through his chest in order to hide. With a sigh, he detached the younger blonde female from himself and sat her back down. Initially, I was going to teach her some stuff about poisons. He admitted. The change in Tsunade was instant as she clambered past her master and planted herself on her little brother's bed, intent on listening to this lesson. Pride was evident on her face. Tsunade shrugged and leaned against a doorframe, waving her hand as though to say continue. The Senju heir sighed. Alright then, let's get started then. He said, rolling his shoulders. First and foremost, it is wholly inaccurate to label everything in this particular subject as a poison. What do you mean? She asked, her brows furrowed. A poison is a toxin that is ingested or administered through contact. Take a mushroom, for example. Some have poisonous spores and are just innately poisonous. They cannot control whether or not they administer their toxins. A venom, on the other hand, is a toxin that is injected directly into a wound. Take for example a spider or snake. They can control whether or not they administer their particular toxin. Ino nodded. It made sense, though it made her wonder why the whole group was regarded as poisons. Now there are many different kinds of toxins, for too many to even begin to name, but I use only 4. The first of which is a hallucinogen. Despite my chakra control, I cannot perform genjutsu, which is weird, but I developed my own brand of this toxin when we went to the genjutsu tree village. As the name suggests, it causes the victim see hallucinations, similar to a genjutsu, but with no chakra usage. Follow me so far? Ino nodded, clearly fascinated. She couldn't wait to tell her mom and dad about this. And the other 3. Hematoxin, cytotoxin, and neurotoxin. You finally got the complete formula for neurotoxin? Shizune asked excitedly. Naruto nodded, sharing her excitement. I got it after analyzing the gauntlets of the demon brothers. I can show it to you if you want. Shizune nodded. Oh, it would make paralyzing those perverted bastards that have been hitting on her for the last month so damn easy. She'd ask Naruto to help her out with it, but he'd more than likely kill the poor bastards. They didn't need that kind of problem on their hands. Anyway, a hematoxin affects the blood. More specifically, it attacks red blood cells and causes blood to coagulate. To prove his point, Naruto poured a vial of blood in a small glass dish. After swishing it around, he grabbed a vial of red liquid and administered a drop or two. The effect was almost immediate. The blood turned darker, and when Naruto swirled it in the bowl, it was not as free-flowing as it once was, but moved as though it were a crimson ball. It made Ino sick, but as a shinobi, she'd more than likely see worse. She stomach dropped just thinking about it. Naruto noticed his mother stiffen and quickly tossed the whole bowl through his broken window. He gave her an apologetic look and she smiled reassuringly. Cytotoxin works on the cellular level, destroying cell membrane and the cells of the body themselves, one by one. This eventually causes necrosis. Ino cocked her head to the side, and Naruto had to resist the urge to glomp the poor girl. Necrosis. The death of all or most of the cells in an organ or tissue. Tsunade translated, smiling at her brother's pout. Basically, the affected areas turn black and are effectively dead. Yeah. And the last one is neurotoxin, which attacks the central nervous system. This in and of itself causes paralysis, respiratory failure, and death. Which means, if you use it on an enemy, you would have to keep them stabilized if you needed to bring them back for interrogation. Ino nodded, her mind reeling with the information she'd just been fed. Naruto rested a hand on her shoulder and assured her that they would talk about it more in depth another time. For the time being, however, he let her borrow his copy of Beginner's Book of Poisons, Vol. 1. The text was well worn, as though the One had read it thoroughly and many times. He did, of course, but what did anyone expect of him? For the next few hours, Tsunade and Tsunade had to smile as the ball of sunshine held his fellow blonde captive, as he started with the most basic of the toxins he possessed, which was the hallucinogen. When the Yamanaka heiress left later, she felt the strangest urge to run to her family's store and take stock of the toxins they had. In all of the excitement of actually learning something, she'd forgotten all about the plan she'd come up with. Before she left, she made Naruto promise that they would get together tomorrow, maybe train or grab lunch. Or both. He agreed, but told her that she should probably get some sleep. The Senju heir had a sinking feeling that something strange was going to happen tomorrow, but he didn't know what. I didn't even know that you could read, Ino pig. Sakura taunted. The blonde heiress didn't even bother looking up, too engrossed in a rather familiar-looking green and purple accented book. Hell, the Yamanaka girl barely committed to the dismissive wave aimed her way. Izzy said Ino shortly, then muttered to herself. These marginal notes that Naruto-kun made are really good. Did she say Naruto-kun? She wondered, then aloud said. Ah, I see you're finally realizing the Sasuke-kun isn't interested in you. Good job, pig. If the other genin could hear her taunts, she wasn't making it known. It was pissing Sakura off to no end. Looking over the other girl's shoulder, she noticed that Ino was reading something titled Beginner's Book of Poison, if the name at the top of the page was anything to go by. Was that Naruto's book? Why was Ino pig reading her teammate's book? She may not be interested in him romantically, nor would she ever admit that she was ever so slightly curious, but she was still slightly possessive over her teammates. He tanked a blade for her, after all. He deserved her kindness. Why do you have Naruto's book, pig? She snatched the volume away and was met instantly with a blood-chilling glare. Ino glared at her former best friend and rival like she never glared at anyone before. Give it back. Though she shivered, the mild killing intent that Ino was giving off sending her mind into flashbacks of her encounters with Zabuza, the Pinket stood her ground. Even though she was fairly certain that by further taunting the Yamanaka heiress, she was nominating herself to be target practice for her clan's hidden jutsu that would literally melt her mind. Why do you have Naruto's book? She asked again. The blonde Kunoichi stood and snatched the volume back, still glaring at the other genin. She snarled at her former friend. Naruto-kun gave it to me, since he's going to start training me. Besides, why do you care? The foreign sense of jealousy crawled thickly through her veins, foreign because it was in no way related to her beloved Sasuke-kun. She knew it was most likely because the blonde had offered to help her train as well. Hold up. Naruto-kun. Ino slipped a bookmark to save the page she was on as she stood and turned her back on her former friend. Yes. Naruto-kun. Go ahead and pursue Sasuke to your heart's content. To say that Ino Yamanaka was thoroughly pissed off would be an understatement. The conversation between herself and her former friend from the day prior weighed heavily on her mind. Leave it to that damn billboard brow to ruin my good mood. The blonde thought bitterly. It happened roughly an hour after she left Naruto's house. She made her way to the Dango restaurant to grab herself some dinner and dessert while she went ahead and read through chapter 6. Introduction to hallucinogens, but the Pinket showed up and ruined her mood. When Ino returned home after that conversation, her parents found her room torn asunder while she stared rather longingly at the book. Needless to say, she sat her parents down and had a long conversation with them. Her mother was proud that she was finally getting serious about her studies and had found someone to help advance the young blonde. Her father, on the other hand, was just glad she was over this obsessive devotion to Sasuke Uchiha. He could scarcely have a conversation with his precious dandelion without that damn brat being brought up. His relief was brief, however, as she regaled them with the tale of Naruto Senju. Inoichi Yamanaka had a single thought. Well fuck. Her mother told the blonde to invite the young man over for dinner, but to the rising panic of her father, Inoichi could do nothing more than bluster and stutter as his wife pulled him rather happily from their daughter's room. Ino couldn't help but think about how fast she'd gotten over her obsession. It was distracting when she actually paid attention to it. One day she was praying her heart out to Kami-sama above, hoping against hope that she would be on a team with the last Uchiha. Then all of a sudden this boy comes in with hair like the sun and managed to tear her attention away from who she believed to be her soulmate at the time. Now he was sharing her knowledge with her. She grinned slightly before cleaning her room. It was more than Sasuke did. The rest of the week was rather uneventful. When Naruto had time, which was more often than not, Ino was with him. If they weren't having a lesson, then they were training. If they weren't training, then they were just enjoying each other's company. Sometimes, they would not train until much later and just enjoy being around each other. As much as Ino loathed sweating, she could already feel the results of her physical training. She had more energy, she could focus more, and her skin, when not drenched in sweat, had more of a glow to it. With the help of the younger of the blonde Senju, Ino mastered water walking. Asuma-sensei was good for something, seeing as how she had already mastered tree walking. As good and relatively uneventful as the week was, it wasn't without its low points. Fortunately, or unfortunately from Ino's perspective, those low points came in the form of her rival. Sakura Haruno seemed to be splitting her time between fawning over Sasuke and trying to get in between Ino and Naruto. Naruto, of course, didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't care. Neither option was really outside of the realm of possibility. By Saturday, however, Ino had enough. "You're doing great, Ino," Naruto praised with a smile. "Just maintain the chakra flow." Ino's hands were forming the snake hand seal, and she was flowing earth chakra throughout her skin. Her normally fair skin was noticeably darker, a deeper brown than the earth below. Deep in concentration, her entire body was soon that earthy brown color. It was only Ino's platinum blonde hair that retained its original color. After about an hour, the female genin was starting to tremble, and after a few more minutes, she dropped the jutsu. "That was excellent, Ino." Naruto jumped in excitement. "You've come a long way in a week. Kind of making me jealous." Ino blushed at the praise. "Only because I had an awesome teacher." The other blonde smiled, but soon found that they were no longer alone. Pink and Black sauntered onto the field, one looking bored while the other looked instantly annoyed. Ino looked to the sky, and by Kami, she could swear that she saw her good mood take off like a damn bird. Naruto noticed his friend tense up and followed her glare to his teammate. The Pin Cat was also sending her own glare to the other blonde. Now Naruto was the furthest thing from an idiot as possible, but he did have his airheaded moments, and for the life of him, he couldn't figure out the source of the problem. As far as he could tell, Ino was over Sasuke, so it couldn't be that, could it? "What are you doing here, Ino pig?" Sakura snarled. Had the Pin Cat possessed any manner of strength or ability, that snarl might have given Naruto pause. But given who his mother and sister were, it was more like a kitten trying to be a tiger or a puppy trying to be a wolf. "Didn't know I needed your permission to do anything in this village, forehead," Ino snapped. "Unless I should start calling you Hokage-sama." Naruto expertly stifled his laugh by disguising it as a cough. He looked away in the direction of the breeding Uchiha and was instantly reminded of how much he wanted to bury him. He was almost done with his special project and was waiting on the slightest cue to break the boy. For now, however, the boy was practicing his shuriken jutsu. The repetitive dull thunk of his shuriken and kunai hitting the tree was kind of hypnotic. Turning his attention back to the other blonde and the Pin Cat, he found himself looking into a pair of iridescent eyes and another pair of pupilless cornflower blue eyes. "I'm sorry, what?" he asked sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. Ino's eyes, once hard from glaring at her former friend, softened instantly when they met his cerulean whirlpools. "When are you going to take me out on a date, Naruto-kun?" "Okay, that settled it, she was over Sasuke." Sakura glared harsher still at the blonde female, which Naruto had no idea was possible. If looks could kill, his friend would have been dead several hundred times over. It was quite intimidating. Ino caught the look and turned her own glare to the Pin Cat. "Hey forehead, do you mind? Sasuke is over there," she said dismissively. "A date?" said Naruto thoughtfully. What did you have in mind?" "Dinner with my family," said Ino. "Tonight. Bring your mom and sister." She ran off mere seconds before Kakashi-sensei made his presence known. The rest of the day was spent training, though Sakura was in a noticeably worse mood than when her crush rejected her. Naruto had a single thought that reverberated throughout his mind for the entirety of the day. Would that even count as a date? "It's very nice to meet the young man responsible for kicking my daughter's training into gear," said Akemi with a dazzling smile. Ino's mother, a brunette that held an air of regality about her, chewed her rice thoughtfully as she and Inoichi scrutinized the sunny blonde boy that looked as though nothing in the world could touch him. In truth, given his two family members and his own strength, attested to by Ino herself, nothing probably could touch him. Given his status as heir to the Senju clan, only a fool would dare lay a hand on the boy within the walls of Konohagakure. Still, the older of the blonde males didn't take too kindly to boys getting too close to his baby girl. Said baby girl was eyeing the boy intently, hanging on to his every word when he spoke and making sure Inoichi himself didn't say anything untoward. Ino is incredibly intelligent, said Naruto. I'm surprised she didn't make Inoichi of the year. The genin blushed furiously at his praise and continued to eat in silence. Of course, he knew why she didn't make Inoichi of the year. Sakura is such a bookworm that only she had the ability to continuously fawn over Sasuke and still have maintained top marks in class. He wouldn't hold that over her head, however. The Kemi chuckled at the praise her daughter received. Nevertheless, we thank you for getting her in gear. I, personally, was afraid her little crush would hamper her potential. Ha-san. The blonde girl hissed. Naruto chuckled as well. I'm only glad I can help. Inoichi continued to scrutinize the youngest of the Senju, something that didn't escape the notice of Tsunade. The matriarch of the Senju clan had spent the entire trip to the Yamanaka compound in a state of irritability, grumbling the entire time about floozies trying to steal her Naru-chan. Naruto of course promised her that he wouldn't be going anywhere and that even if he and Ino ended up in a more intimate relationship, that he would still be her little Naru-chan. That managed to cheer the buxom blonde up to a degree, but look, the other blonde adult was giving her beloved Sachi was riling her up. Anada, Akemi said dangerously. Inoichi turned his gaze to his wife and the pair seemed to be having a heated yet silent debate. A debate that ended when Akemi's right brow twitched. The Yamanaka clan head blushed furiously and cleared his throat. He looked back to Naruto. Akemi smiled at Naruto and said, "Well, Naruto-san, what do you specialize in?" "Medical ninjutsu and taijutsu," he answered easily. "Taijutsu, you say?" Inoichi asked with intrigue. Naruto went into the details of the usage of his boil-release Kekkei Genkai and what it did. The questions and answers went back and forth for the remainder of dinner, some aimed at Tsunade and other at Shizune, while the majority stayed with the younger blonde male. Somewhere towards the end of the dinner, however, Naruto made a rather important discovery. There are way too many blondes in this house. He thought, then paled. By Kami, if Ino and I have kids there's a good chance they'll all be blonde. While after dinner tea was being served by Akemi, the question that Naruto was waiting on finally showed up. Shizune and Tsunade had to admit that they were having a relatively good time, at least until Inoichi opened his mouth again. "What are your intentions for my daughter?" he asked. Naruto just stared at the man, questing and more than a little curious. All eyes were on him, he could feel it. To make her happy and keep her that way, I suppose. In truth, while he could see himself dating Ino a little more clearly than previous, he still didn't really have any particular intentions. Unless he was in an operating theater or on a mission, he lived by a whatever happens will happen kind of creed. If he and Ino did end up together, then he would cherish her and do his damnedest to keep her happy. If they didn't, then there would be no point in him feeling negatively about it. Inoichi nodded approvingly. As the Senju trio rose, the Yamanaka trio walked them to the door. Sharing a firm handshake with Naruto and a still firmer handshake with Tsunade, he saw them off. Akemi hugged the trio. Ino conversed rather shortly with Naruto about a mission that was coming up for Team 10. He nodded and told her that he would drop by in the morning to hand her off some supplies. She thanked him and, with a blush, pressed light kiss to his cheek. Shizune kept a firm grip on her master and mother figure to ensure that she didn't thrash the poor girl for showing their bowl of sunshine some affection. His face went blank before he smiled and pulled her into a warm hug. "What the hell do you mean Shikamaru's sick?" Ino shouted to her sensei. Asuma sighed as he took a long drag of his premium cigarette, much to Ino's annoyance. Choji shifted uncomfortably in his spot. They needed another genin in order to take this C-ranked mission. The son of the Sandaime wondered briefly as Kurenai would let him borrow one of her genin, but Ino interrupted him at once. "We could take Naruto-kun," she offered. Both Asuma and Choji looked at her as though she'd grown another head. For the past 2 months, Ino had said little to nothing about Sasuke, which all male members of Team 10 were thankful to Kami above for, and spent more time reading books on poisons. In truth, it made them all more than a little uneasy, since they were all convinced that she would poison one or all of them. She'd even taken to asking Asuma for tougher train, most of which included him striking her with his full power, while she kept up B-rank Earth release jutsu. So for her to add the kun honorific to another boy's name meant something serious. Either way, Asuma heard about the boy's time in the land of Wave and was beyond impressed. Medical ninjutsu, taijutsu, ninjutsu, he was a wild card that would make anyone think twice. With a shrug, he smiled and they headed towards the Hokage tower. When they got there, however, Naruto was in the Hokage's office with a tall man that had to have been Zabuza. "The Inhaku can live in the Senju compound with us, Jiji." The boy clapped the taller man on the shoulder, much to the former Kirinin's annoyance. "There's more than enough houses and no one is dumb enough to set foot in there." Tsunade took a long thoughtful drag from his pipe and blew the smoke from his nose. After a moment's thought, he nodded. Be back here tomorrow at 9 o'clock sharp with Haku for your respective tests. Zabuza nodded respectfully before turning to find 3 members of Team 10. He nudged the blonde beside him and jerked his head in their direction. The moment he saw Ino, a bright smile lit up his face, but he held his silence. For now, anyway. Morning, Tsunade. Asuma grinned. We're here for a C-rank mission. Garrison nodded sagely. Ah, and where is Shikamaru-kun? Sick. Do you have a temporary replacement? All eyes went to Ino, who was staring with a blush at Naruto. No one spoke, but all in attendance connected the dots rather quickly. Still realizing that they needed to give verbal confirmation, Asuma nodded and nominated Naruto. Hiruzen asked if it was okay with the blonde in question, which he answered with an emphatic yes. After receiving the mission scroll, which detailed the delivering of a scroll to Mifune Dono of the Land of Iron, Team 10, Naruto, and Zabuza left to pack for a month-long trip. Asuma stayed back to talk to his father, however, curious about the second blonde he managed to pick up. Anything I should know about him, Tsunade? Garrison hummed thoughtfully. According to Kakashi, he's powerful and despite initially freezing up, he quickly handled it. If there is a hospital, he will more than likely straight to it. Other than that, no. Asuma nodded. Wild card, indeed. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the story. If you did, please like the video. Also consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. This will really mean a lot for me. I'll see you in the next one.